So you didn't play Borderlands 3 at all, huh?
No.
And the things they do to the characters, they very much had a too many cooks sort of deal. Too many names to kind of remember, and just kind of not enough time to actually remember them all. Yeah, I'm just going through crew mode on my character. I have the DLC. Well, I guess I don't know if the summer sale is still even going on with with Epic. That's just gonna get stuck to a platform. That's kind of how where you end up going.
Yeah, I had a bunch of these games on like PS4, but I don't have my PS4 anymore.
Oh, what happened to your PS4?
Let's hunt.
I gave it away when I moved
Oh, he gave it away.
to my nephew.
Oh, well, at least it's someone you can probably get it back from. Well, I mean, it's not like you lost your account. Or did you give him your account as well?
No, I just gave him the console.
Yeah, I mean, like, so you could pop into a PS5 and just log in and have all your downloaded games, right?
Have fun, run.
Yeah, if I had a PS5, I guess.
Not like that's important to have.
No, not at this moment. It's not.
So you should pull up the stream so you can actually see what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm playing PlanetSide right.
I can shatter the house. Weak. All of you are weak. Yes.
It's funny, sometimes dudes will literally be like outmanned 5-1, and I'll drive up next to him with a harasser, honk at him, be like, jump in, don't want to do it.
I don't need your help, it is not an important thing. I won't take it.
I'm like, why don't you jump in? You could probably kill them all.
Yeah, but I don't want to get God's side. Unless
I'm guessing they just don't know what's going on. That's probably the biggest thing.
Strip them bare.
I don't know if that's worse than having some of those guys that get in and then they just have no idea what they're looking at.
yeah, you give them a bulldog and they're like, why does this not shoot?
No, they'll just be like, you're like shooting at something like 100 miles away, and you're like, why don't you shoot those heavies shooting all those rockets at us? Like, they're standing right next to us, about to kill us.
I don't know where they are. Where are they? I cannot see them. Look down and unzoom. It'd be like that sometimes.
I thought we were sorted back there. Hey, you! Over here! Slag me! You've got some good timing. These bandits somehow got their hands on some wicked Malawan guns.
I did have one time one guy got in and he was just murdering everybody. It was pretty nice.
Who or what is a...
Like, he got in right on one of those spots where I came up behind everybody, and you just saw a big pocket of them all standing together. Been trying to do it more solo now. getting into libs
This
and
is
stuff
the
like
work
that.
of the Calypsos. I am hunting the vault to keep its power out of their grasp.
The Calypsos? Those yammering EchoNet arseholes with the cult? Well, I got no slagging clue about vaults, but Reese would know. Come on, I gotta tell him about our new bandit problem anyway. I'll introduce you.
Hey, recruit. 7 years ago, I started the Claps List service to connect people in need with heroes like you. Look, I forgot the password. But hey, these requests are only 7 years old, so I bet these people still need help / are alive. There's a doctor named Ace Barron who needs your help. He lost his staff. Head to the Mount Schuler Recovery Center and do the thing. Then we'll both be showered with praise and admiration for our good deeds.
Malawan pushed most of the Atlas forces back to HQ, but I've got a small team working behind enemy
I always wonder if
lines.
these smaller
Let's
side
make
quests
sure
are
they
even
haven't
worth
been
doing.
overrun with all these bandits running around.
I soar!
I don't know.
They seem to level up pretty freely here. Borderlands 1 it was so hard to level up once you get past 20.
The
You
small robot
would have to
said
spend like
was about your
forever just like
lost
killing
staff.
mobs to get anywhere.
Seriously? I put that request up like 7 years ago, back when I had a respectable establishment, not this crap pile you see now. But I am glad you're here. See, I'm trying to help out all the poor bastards affected by this war, but yo, straight up, we are running short on med supplies. We need hexaprizine, skag oil, melodinax, and hemopacks. Track some down for me, will ya?
I'll be honest, Atlas forces are gutted. I've been using what resources I've got left to keep the Civ safe and disrupt Malawan's supply lines. Can't remember the last time I slept in a bed. Ugh, I miss coffee.
I have need of you, beast. Feel the bloodlust. I'm the kill. Swoop and tear. Another all silent.
Where the hell did these bandits get hopper wheels? That's Malawan tech. Let's take one out, see if we can find where they're getting this stuff. Nice! I see an echo in the wreckage. Grab it.
Oh, my ride died.
One more time, and I'm gonna say it slowly.
That's annoying.
Don't kill the Malawan guy.
Kill the Malawan guys! For you! For my queen! For my...
No. Okay, this energy, I love it, but we made a deal with Malawan, and now we're not going to kill them. So, what are we going to do when we see a Malawan guy?
Kill the Malawan guys! For Tyrene! For the twin gods!
Yeah, okay, gotta start this one over.
No!
Slag me! The bandits are working with Malawan! Bloody fantastic!
Oh yeah, having a ride. I got thinking it was gonna be next to my ride and it's not there.
Some bandits jacked a bunch of my medical supplies. Find them and blast their janky ride. Oh, snap! They're getting away! After them! Yes! That was gangster! Hey! Out! Now grab those supplies and get out of there.
Rest now. Your huddle. To the front.
There's too many guns in this game that can potentially kill you as you use them.
Yo, that's all the medicine! We still need another hemo pack, but we'll figure it out. Come on back, player. I know what you're thinking. What's this doctor doing trying to be a rapper? But listen, medicine, it comes and goes. But my rhymes, that's healing for the soul. Look,
Yeah, I actually love their gimmick.
see,
Their
I bust
gimmicky
raps
guns.
Like I bust caps and that's that. Don't mess with my knapsacks full of fat stacks or else you get the clapbacks. Word? Word.
This is our stop. On foot from here.
Yeah, some of them kind of carried over into 3. Just with slight changes to them.
I mean, I guess, you know, in that kind of setting, you can make it any kind of balance changes you want to.
Yeah, when it's dominated by mostly PvE changes. But you're also going to have more inspiration on types of guns than not. It's like guns can actually like not make sense and then still be considered balanced.
Come here, girl.
Looks like we're still a little short on hemoglobin. Hemoglobin Disrobin is the title track on my mixtape, by the way. Did you want one, or no? Still no? Okay, screw it. I'll donate some of my own. Grab this empty emo pack and give me an assist.
Because it's like, it benefits everybody to have overpowered weapons.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole goal. But I have noticed that there's been a bit of like a loop of which guns you actually kind of get, and it's just like the slight different modifications to it.
Oh, yep. Okay, that'll do.
I apologize.
Okay, thanks, I think. But at least maybe this will finally give me some street cred. Maybe I'll get one of those sweet Atlas robot arms. But hey, don't worry about me, I'll survive. And so are my patients, thanks to you. Mount Schuler is finally ready to staff up and heal the hurt. Oh, by the way, that Harden guy stopped by.
Wanted you to have this. His way of saying thanks, I guess.
Word. Last chance on that mixtape, by the way.
Still no? Word? Word.
Yeah, the game's definitely not as entertaining as 2 was. Seems like
Oh, it's not?
Yeah, the very first little bit of it kind of has some chuckles, and there's a little here and there, but they're just like, there's never any big jokes that like pay off, or the villain's just kind of meh at best. Like, I see what they were trying to get at, but they're just kind of, they go halfway on the stereotypes, and then they never like seem to either fully go diving in on the stereotypes, or they just like never evolve the characters into stereotypes that they were trying to aim for. So like the enemies just supposed to be, the main bad guys, they're supposed to be like stereotypical like streamers or whatever, but they almost never complete that. So like they at some point they just like stop trying to make them like streamers who are trying to like do streamer things. Instead they almost just like make them this regular player or enemies that you just like shoot at. Like the motivations to like the gimmick don't line up, and they were trying to like fill both shoes.
There's an Atlas base nearby with a direct line back to
Does that make sense?
Malawan captured it a few months ago. I haven't had the manpower to take it back, but now that you're here, maybe we can finally send those bastards packing. See these civilians? Malawan doesn't care if they're caught in the crossfire. They're here to take over Atlas and sell Reese's new weapons as their own. To them, this war is just a merger. Let me know when you're ready to take back that Atlas base.
Oh, Vault Hunter.
You ready to move out? The base isn't far, but... What was that?
Malawad! They found us!
Oh, bollocks! Malawan's in the tunnels! Take him out! Malawan's never come down here before. If they think we're easy targets now that they've got Bandit back up, oh, they're about to learn differently. Come on!
Please don't shoot! I always find Mallow.
Customer's always right, bitch. Come on, we're heading to Watershed Base. It's through here. Malawan's bloody well entrenched, so get ready for a fight.
Is it hard to think that Borderlands 2 came out in 2012? Almost over 10 years ago? Well, I guess at 10 years ago.
What was that?
Borderlands 2 coming out back in 2012.
We're close. Get ready.
Was that when it came out?
These guys aren't bad.
Yep, I remember when it came out. I was in high school,
We're gonna hit them
if you
hard
believe it.
and make it hurt.
I believe.
Shoot more! Tactical retreat!
Yes, into the fray.
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes it's just really hard to find any good fights at all that aren't completely zerged over.
Yeah, they never went back and fixed just the basic things out of that game. They just keep adding stuff. It's like, you can keep adding things all you want, but if your core game loop doesn't actually exist, then adding things doesn't mean anything.
Well, I mean, basically what it ends up being is you end up running into big zergs everywhere.
Yeah, you're basically, you can't solo play. You can't, like, supply anything in a solo environment. So, like, in Borderlands, or PlanetSide 1, you would just have the ability to, you know, be a support person for nanite stuff if you weren't doing anything with the group. And then, like, the whole, apparently, so it was just uncommon to be, playing against 3 factions at once, or 3 factions fighting at once.
Oh, well, yeah.
Which is also, I think, another problem is it's like, you can't narrow down the fights between, like, important things because people find different areas important.
The life lead from you.
Right now the NC are dominating Osher. We basically have TR backed up on the northwest warp gate. They've got 2 or 3 territories.
You cannot take me.
And the other thing I'm slowly starting to pick up in this game is that if you stand still and shoot, you basically win. This game wants you to dance left and right, and shoot.
Which is kind of silly because it's like, you know, one person's not doing that, then the person who is ends up winning. But it's like, it's not, it doesn't make sense if you're going to make a game, even in any capacity, that's supposed to be built around, like, being MLG, fast moving. Well, why would you have it in a format that isn't matchmaking? If there's no matchmaking, how can you possibly have a format like that? Does that make sense? Like you would have no way of actually, like, making that viable gameplay-wise if you wanted to have things without matchmaking. That's why matchmaking always existed.
This is so funny. I'm on one of those floating islands thing, and I was killing one of their Corsairs because they got it basically.
Bonkers. That was brilliant, Vault Hunter. All right. Let's get that channel open to Atlas HQ.
They've got it like surrounded with a bunch of Corsairs, the boats.
Come on.
And I was like shooting rockets at them, killing them, and they decided that I was a much nuisance, so they decided to have 3 or 4 people jump up onto the platform, come get SKL.
As always.
I suppose I'll take that.
That's one of the reasons why it's like, it's almost not even worth playing sometimes.
Well, you know, you can take them, you can beat them. The problem is that, you know, you're gonna have to beat 2 or 3 of them at a time. If on the low side, you know what I mean. You'd be lucky if you can run into just 2 or 3 of them.
Siren receives her markings. She always finds her way to the sisterhood. It seemed the will of the universe that sirens be together, our lives entwined like an unseen braid.
Hi, you've reached Reese Strongfork, CEO and wartime general of Atlas Corporation. Just a quick question. Who the hell is this and how did you get on my secure line?
Reese, relax. It's Lorelei. We've taken back Watershed Base with a little help. I've got... Hang about. What is that thing on your face?
Oh, this? This is my siege mustache. The troops love it. Anyway, who's your friend?
I am a Vault Hunter and a Crimson Raider.
Vault Hunter? Crimson? Holy crap, yes! How many troops did you bring? 20,000? 50,000?
Fewer. My pack may be small, but our body count is high.
What? Oh, come on! I can't take back this city with a single-digit army!
They're good, Reese. Really good. And we need all the help we can get. Bandits are pouring into the city, and they're working with Malawan. Looks like Katagawa's made a deal with the Calypsos.
Perfect. Everybody's just piling on. Well, new friend, you showed up at the right time.
I do
My
like
top
the little
agent is gearing up to
little
strike at
scuba
Malawan's
modules
strategic
they gave
Digimon.
us.
If they are after the vault, that's
I haven't actually played on Osier since the
Throw me
update.
up with my agent. Reese, out.
Yeah, so now they have, you know, those things that people swim with in the ocean.
While you go meet Reese's agent, I'm
Like
gonna
they
get
look like
this
a little
base
jet
back
you
online
hold
and
in your
start
hand?
securing
Yeah.
more of the city. Oh,
So now
before
you have
head
one of
off,
those.
I've
You
got
can
some
put one of those in your slot,
Where did that
your
come
equipment
from?
slot, and you can basically use it as a jump jet in the water. But it'll pull you forward in everything, whichever direction you're going.
Since you're heading downtown, I'm hooking
Is
you
fighting
up with
underwater
a
any fun now?
fast and light,
Yeah, they
perfect
actually
for getting about
revamped it a
cities.
little bit, so the
Take it
guns
for a
work a little bit
spin.
better. You can use basically any gun down here, except they have like a tremendous arc. So it's better to use the underwater gun.
That little sprig of mint gave you a new vehicle, huh? I'll make sure it's loaded into your catch ride profile so you can destruct a new one from any terminal.
Reese's agent is a bit of a loner, but he's got quite the knack for putting people's insides on their outsides. I'm sure you two will hit it off just grand.
I don't think there's any sniper rifles so far.
Yeah, they probably don't want to mess with that meta. It's easy to copy and paste the, you know, NS11 or whatever 40 times over.
Man, SKL is just doing drop after drop.
Welcome back, my girl.
It's a good thing that they're such bad players, though. If you catch them by themselves.
They almost don't want them to be decent players. If you had decent players, and well, they learn how to actually play.
You mean without Zergs?
Something like that. Yeah, they give infantry, you know, high intensity sort of capacity to play, and then they make no matchmaking, and then they make it Zerg friendly, or they, you know, quantity is over anything else, and you can't manage quantity when you have no like buffers to it. There's nothing slowing it down.
We gave Malawan an unlimited supply of
It's like they
screaming war
didn't
music.
make any sense out of PlanetSide 1's game design, and they made some other game first and then just called it PlanetSide.
Planet, they get Atlas, and we got the vault, so you're left playing with whatever you
got down there. You just keep doing you.
I just killed like 7 people underwater. You can kind of tell which ones aren't carrying regular rifles. I mean the underwater rifles.
Stairs. Looks like he was testing an experimental stair climbing module. Oh, I see the problem. He didn't turn it on. What a
In a way, I think the like regular rifles, they hurt more, but you have to aim more, you know, because they have such huge arc. Like the Godsaw's arc, you know, it's almost like double what it is in regular. Like the drop is just humongous.
We'll call it balance, and then we'll nerf it later. No, don't let me die. Oh, I died. That's the worst.
Ready to go?
Quasar dedicated drop source. Thought it was this whirlpool. Oh,
Man.
Oh, I really ended up over here.
It's funny, you get down there with SKL, once they get all dug in, and yeah, it's 2 to 1, and they're like all over the place hiding. Holding hands and pulling.
Holding hands, frolicking in the field.
No, they're hiding. Holding hands, they're scared. They stand together. They're like little bunnies hiding in the corner, and they're like, I'll watch you and you watch me, buddy.
Oh, so, okay, yesterday, there was this rabbit that's hanging out around the house. Let me just say, there was a rabbit hanging out around the house, you know, to add some, you know, foreshadowing to this little story.
Right.
So I you know, just kind of getting late in the day. I'm just like, alright, you know, I probably should go outside and, you know, get some fresh air, whatever, for a few minutes. And, you know, the dog's outside, it's not unusual and everything. And I go outside and I hear this, and I see her, and she's just like laying in the yard, and she looks like she's eating something. And I hear this crunch. And I get closer, I'm like, what the heck has she got? I thought she had like a really big treat. I'm like, that's a weird treat for her to have in the middle of the day. And then she's eating a rabbit's head off of previously killed rabbit. Just rawling, no, not getting rid of the fur or hairs or anything. It's just like munch, munch, munch.
It's interesting watching them eat like in the wild. They don't give a shit. They're just like, yeah.
I guess I'm eating this.
It'd be like moving, squirming, everything, and they're just like eating it slow.
It was so she was in the middle of the yard. Why in the world would there be a rabbit in the middle of the yard like that? So, and she's older too. You know, my dog's on the older side. There's no way she like, you know, hunted. She's a Labrador. There's no way she was like hunting out for this rabbit like that, because she would have done it by now if she had the chance. But so she ate the entire head, just like took it right off the body. And I'm like, what in the world? And so when I get to it and get a hold of it, it had looked like something had gotten to the top of it, and there are some pretty hefty looking hawks in the area. I'm thinking one of the hawks, you know, dove down and nabbed it, but then dropped it. I guess it was probably squirming enough and dropped it, and that drop probably killed it, and it just so happened to be in like the perfect spot for her to get a hold of it in the yard.
You're saying it was just the head, that was it?
The whole rabbit's body was there. She had access to the whole body. I had stopped her, but she had just taken the head right off.
And you don't think your dog could have done that?
I mean, okay, so there was a time last year she had an entire baby squirrel.
She could catch a squirrel, man.
No, she didn't catch it. There were squirrels fighting in the tree, and I think the baby squirrel was a stillborn or something, and then it fell down. But I'm thinking it was a stillborn, because it didn't move when it hit the ground. It didn't even squirm or anything. Or maybe it was just like super frail after being like, maybe got killed by one of their squirrels on the tree, because you know how the squirrels get all uppity with each other, and they're like, oh, this isn't my baby, I'm gonna make you have another one.
Oh, between the fellow squirrels and birds, man, they fight each other like crazy.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, and that was the case, and it was just on the ground, and she just like, I guess I'll eat it.
Yeah, dog's like, hey, free meal.
And it's just like, I can't really believe that she would just like casually be okay with eating an entire head of a it's like a random rabbit on the ground. She's like, oh,
Yeah,
I
but
guess that's food.
dogs are nothing like humans, man. Like when it comes to food and their primal instincts,
Yeah.
they're just like they don't give a shit.
It also doesn't help that being in a lab, she's like, always, you know how labs are just like always hungry all the time.
Yeah, you remember I told you I had a Shiba Inu dog, right?
Yeah.
So they're pretty small. And I had this idea when I was on the ranch. I was like, oh, I'm gonna let her like make friends with one of the kittens out here, you know. That way she can have one of them hang out with her on the ledge with her. But when I took her to introduce the little the kitten, she didn't know what it was, and she just decided that she was going to try to kill it. She like started chomping on it, and I had to grab her and take it away from her.
Oof. That's the worst.
Yeah, cute little fluffy kitten. And I was like, what are you doing, crazy dog?
I believe I can
She didn't know any
it's
better.
food.
She was just like, rodent, I'm gonna kill it.
It doesn't
I
look like
your
me, it must be
enthusiasm,
food.
Beast.
See, that's why, like, the rabbit had been in the yard quite a bit and everything, so
Looks like Reese's
probably
agent
just
is
like,
at the Mercantile
for her, it
Plaza.
would have been something to
Another
actually
one's
go
got
after
a
and
weapons
chase.
depot set up inside the mall, and I'll bet bollocks to bullets that's what he's after.
What do we got here? What are the challenges? So I got one car hijacking that needs to... Oh, there's 2 more logs, really? Okay, so I see the one and the log over there. Yeah.
I actually played Roblox with my daughter yesterday.
Roblox. Gross. Delete your account.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I didn't really want to, but she was just like, you know, I always wanted to play a game with you and stuff, so... We did. We played like that one where they have like a Nerf gun arena.
I don't know anything about Roblox. I know 2 guys back from undergrad, but they never committed to this. Who were the only thing they ever talked about was they were going to try to make games on it because apparently it's pretty lucrative to make like custom games and roll in some dough on it.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. That's why she wants to do it. She wants to. That's really cool that you said it because she wants me to help her build like a game according to like her. She likes to write stories and stuff.
All right.
So she wants to write. She wants to make like a game according to the storyline.
Yeah, I mean, you should help her out with that. That stuff's that creative stuff is kind of hard to do when you get older.
Oh yeah, yeah. I really try to see what she's interested in, so that way I could try to help her as much as I can.
You need to like teach her story archetypes and stuff, so this way things can actually make sense and be cohesive. It's what a lot of games and even products these days just miss are these core archetypes.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's still really young, but she actually writes really well for not having even taken English literature at all.
Yeah, kids are just better at that in general.
I'm surprised that she has an interest in it. It's really interesting to me.
Yeah, you always seem to make it sound like she was a product of the school system.
What the hell happened? The button is off. Better next time.
Oh yeah, I need to check. Streaming is off. What do you mean it's off? Enable it to... Setting panel? What? In the settings? You gotta go to settings? Is it in... Network and social? I don't know if that's something that has to be done on the Twitch side or on... accessibility. How in the world do I make that work? I guess you have to actually like install it separately. Like Borderlands 3 was one of the there's a few games that like have like Twitch integrations and you can make in the I guess I had to install an extension or something.
A juicy target, but they've got an impenetrable security force field surrounding it. If you somehow crack it open, you're going to find some quality firepower in there.
My entire build right now is basically corrosive and corrosive related accessories.
Too many to count.
So, like, one of the things in Borderlands 1, 2, I was like, oh, neat, they added some cutscenes, you get a little bit more. And I was like, I wouldn't mind a little bit more cutscenes, and now, in retrospect, it's like, now there's too many cutscenes.
Mother of God.
The talking, there's way more talking, and it's like, okay, Borderlands 1 had, like, almost no talking, and it was only for core story parts. And Borderlands 2, I think it kind of had the right balance of talking. Like, they'll talk about the core thing they need to do, and then they'll add like another 2 sentences. It's like, you know, they caught people in the writer's room talking.
Not for like a comedic effect, usually.
It seems like some of it tried to, but most of it's just like random story exposition. Actually, the funny...
because I mean, I know in the second one, like a lot of it was... It seemed like it was kind of like off the cuff, you know, kind of.
Yeah, it was like
funny
kind of impromptu, you know, improv.
Yeah, real good. It was real good stuff. I liked it.
Here it's just like
it's
just like story exposition. It's like the the writers were just like, we gotta make story and expand lore, and then some of it's like it kind of doesn't make sense continuity wise, because it'd be like, oh, they are on another planet and they're talking about things on the other planet. It's like, this doesn't make a bit of sense. Anything.
You know what I hate is when people land in those little drop pods and you can't see where they are, but they can see you.
Yeah, and it's like, the whole thing was like, oh, you can shoot the drop pod before they land, and then it doesn't matter anyways. It's like, by the time you can see it and shoot it.
I've actually had a lot of people kill me like right as soon as I drop. I'm like, how'd they see me? But I never see them.
Yeah.
It's like this shit doesn't make any sense. Just like people jumping out of the latches or off the flashes. I gotta guess where they're gonna land.
Run! Run, you weakling!
All bots demolished. Lower that shield so we can loot some sweet weapons.
Alright, so here's a situation that doesn't make a bit of sense. They just had the AI tell you to hit a button next to where, okay, like it's like an NPC character telling you things to do, and the NPC character's just like, he's just standing right next to it. He's just chilling there. It's like, could it be a little more complicated than go push the button? Could it be like, shoot the thing?
Why does everyone get all weird about my...
No, we need you to go 200 miles away and collect 10 of these things.
Yeah, you should. It won't make sense unless you see some of these things. Do you have another screen you can pull the stream up on, so I can show you the things that are silly sometimes? You can just mute it if you don't want to hear it.
Can you give me a second when
I might have to have you help me test out the little Twitch mod thing. I don't know how that works. I have to figure it out.
Give me a second, I'm gonna find this safe spot. Actually, I've actually been doing pretty well if you get into the leadership chat. Listen to what they're saying on command. We're doing a lot better. Alright, what am I looking at?
Oh, okay, so that was just a second ago that thing I was saying about. They literally had the NPC telling you what to do, was standing right here, and you had to touch this thing.
What do I do, like open YouTube?
Yeah.
Is that where you were streaming?
Yeah, well, I mean, that or Twitch, it doesn't matter.
My beast is dying!
Yeah, I saw you on the other day, and I thought maybe you had posted some other videos like from...
I've just been streaming.
Yeah, I noticed. I saw that it's streaming, so I was like, oh, you were playing Bioshock, I think, or something. Hey, is that a Quasar?
I rolled and got another Quasar.
No, I can hear you talking in the game.
No, you're gonna want to probably mute it, or else it's gonna be like oddly delayed. Oh.
Is that a companion you root?
Yeah, this guy gets just a passive, mostly a passive special where he just has the little companion following him.
So you like draw aggro?
You know, okay, so there's the build I'm running. It's called Hunter, and there's one of the perks down it is that it makes the AI not target you as much, and see, under the idea that your AI person's supposed to take the targeting.
You've got a nose for treasure, I see.
Plug. Yeah, Q system. I ran one of those last run. Gotta go get myself a null pointer because it's a fixed spawn. Gross. Okay, so here's another one of these instances where it's like, why did they decide to do this on the story mission? It's kind of odd. I'll show you here in a second.
One of my friends, she actually is actually having a party this weekend. She wants me to come to. She is her boyfriend or fiance. Actually, her fiance works for what's the company that makes this? Gearbox.
Yeah.
He does like the UI, I think, or something, or the GUI.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, graphic user interface.
Yeah,
I think he did Borderlands. He did the Borderlands 3 stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so like you pick up a thing here, and it's like, oh, here's loot, and then you had to get a null pointer from him, and this area already has a fixed spawn for a null pointer, and you have to do this for the story mission, so you always end up with 2 null pointers, and they're very mediocre sniper, and it's always gonna be the same null pointer.
No, they're obviously different. One's in the top right and one's in the bottom left. Dang, that's a nice sword.
You should ask him what did he do to get into the gaming industry.
No, I mean I talked to him just randomly. I didn't really talk a lot about like his like what he does. Just kind of like random stuff, you know, more like his history of like what he used to do, like why he got into it.
That guy is a douche, and he's way obsessed.
I always find it interesting how people pick their career path.
With this new upgrade, I can cut Malawan shields. Stand back and
See, okay, so it's all like exposition right here. Like all that was just like exposition. That's like you can't just like be playing the story or the game. Like the times when they had you hold still and watch, there was always like something very interesting going on. Like the sanctuary, like getting pulled into the air. It's like, oh, that's cool and everything. But this is like, all right, he's got a thing, and this is the only time he ever does this one thing. He never uses this sword and does anything important with it ever again.
Forward to seeing it die.
An idiot.
And it's like these are like minor directional things too, like the story bits.
So we will crack open Malawan's head and root around for secrets.
Precisely the plan. Meet at Halcyon Spaceport. Now
Okay, gotta get back to the...
You get back to getting shot at?
Yeah, I like to actually try to answer to some of like the command stuff, like see if, I mean, I'm only like one guy, but I'll try and help out.
Why not just like join with one of the bigger platoons?
I just don't have an interest in it. I've been kind of wanting making like a spec ops platoon, like, you know, 12 dedicated guys, but with recruiting process would be pretty hardcore.
It's more like how more would you get people to consistently play and who would be at high level play.
Yeah, and most of those people are already in other places. I mean, I guess the right way would be to, you know, try out new recruits, people that are coming in, you know, take them under your wing and see how they do.
Alright, Junior. I'm over here. I'm gonna tell you something. You wanna play this ridiculous game called PlanetSide? Yeah, I wanna play PlanetSide.
Yeah, I guess I could always start one that says harassers, libs, and VSFs or something. Vehicular combat something.
Okay. Alright. Is this thing? Okay, and I go over here.
I hear you, beast.
And why is there an AI over here? Am I supposed to like shoot this thing? Am I supposed to shoot that thing?
Just shoot it all.
I know, right? What am I doing here?
Let's blow this up, blow that up.
Do I need a shotgun?
Oh, so do they have any Tiny Tina stuff in this one?
I wondered where that
I'm not at that part yet. I mean, do you want me to...
Did you play the second one?
Borderlands 2?
Yep.
I have like almost 400 hours in that game.
So they had Tiny Tina stuff in that one, right? But it was like behind some other area.
Oh, so you mean like the DLC? Did you play any of the DLCs?
No, I don't think so. I wanted to play the stuff they had Tiny Tina, but I never got to it.
Oh, I'm supposed to use a shock here? Can I use a shock here? What are you supposed... Did that do it? I don't know. I meant to go actually get an actual shock elemental. Actually, I might have one on this Torg right here. Neat. Okay, so in Borderlands 2, the Torg guns were only supposed to be explosive, and that was like the gimmick. It was like only explosive on Torg, and now they're like, nah, Torg can be anything. An explosive actually isn't actually like an element in the game anymore. It's just like a feature of the guns. Which I kind of get. It's like, oh, it's not really an element, but still. Alright, there's this little Mali 1 pistol here. I'll have to try. I don't know what he's supposed to do. Oh, he's supposed to shoot something up above? Oh, yeah, he's supposed to shoot that. Okay, you shoot that thing, and that pits the water down. Alright, so I didn't need the Torg or Mali-1 gun. Alright, so that opens up the shield. Oh, wait, no, there's another one. I came by and did
so
this.
Are you like following a build, or are you just kind of making your own?
I mean, it's now. So Borderlands 2 was heavy on the like everything's got to be this. You know, the build's got to match the setup, and you got to play meta. But it's a little more lenient in 3 here. It's like you can kind of run anything and kind of get away with it.
No.
So like you don't have. So like we're in like Ultimate. When you hit Ultimate in 2. You always had to slag all the enemies, because you just would never do damage to them. So that was like the thing. It's like slag always had to be applied, so they got rid of slag entirely. They did give you the more flexibility. Heavy boost, sonic boost. Alright, I'll stick with the digital thrusters though.
When did you eat that?
Halcyon, huh? You never played Outer Worlds?
No.
Yeah, the main like space area you're in, it's called Halcyon. So it's like I see that here and I'm like, Halcyon. I know where Halcyon is.
There was a reason why he was down on his luck. He was lazy, but I was hungry to prove myself. Then one time, we were wandering through the Casmarian quarry and
Yeah.
goes down. Nice knowing you, DeLeon. Grabs my stuff and splits. Well, I had to find another way out. And bam, that's when I found the fault. I guess the moral is, sometimes you gotta fall before you make it big.
Oh yeah, melee is actually like viable in this game. Like basically melee was just like after like level 5 you couldn't even melee an enemy, and that makes sense of it unless you were Creed.
I have need of you, beast.
Welcome to Doctor's Edge Mods and Meds. You know, I pulled one of these out of a patient once. Sure you don't want some credit instead? Leaving already? Well, is your
I think it's kind of crazy though. I have a weapon right now that's functionally still pretty good, even though it's almost 5 levels below, or it's 4 levels below my current.
Well, that's good, right? So you don't have to really change your guns that often.
Yeah, it's not like Ultimate where you basically always had to work for getting an on-level weapon just to continue playing what you were doing. Where in the world is that? Is that up there? Neat.
Chest.
Light off rocket launcher. Light off rocket launcher. COV. Assault rifle. I think my chaos is still probably better. Alright, what we got over here? Hyperion sniper.
A meager life, a fitting death.
I don't know if I'm going to be level for this boss or not.
Mind is here. Expect intense resistance. This is the fun part. This fight is a test. Show your true skill in battle. I will be watching.
Distract them!
Well, that was a little underwhelming.
I will keep it separate from the others.
Return to the base and send that data to Reese. I have more to kill. Oh, and Vault Hunter, you are worthy of that name. Good hunting with you.
Wow! You really just popped the brains right out of my Gigamind. Not satisfied with running underfoot, huh? I get it. My father once said I was 12th in line to run the company, so I made 11 quick little cuts to the family tree. Now I'm next in line. Think about that. Now you've put yourself in my way.
Oh. Yep. What have you been doing up to lately, though? Anything fun?
No, not really.
Oh. I would think after not talking to you for a few days, you actually would have gotten into something different. Even
Nah, dude, I pretty much do the same shit my whole life.
Huh. Then at one point you say you were you were looking at getting a new job or something.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm still thinking about it, but that's like a
Ready
long
for a
term.
fight?
Welcome back, Vault Hunter. Why do you smell like brains?
God,
and fried circuitry? You know what?
Hello,
I don't
people
want
had
to know.
popped in and looked
Call
at what I
Reese,
was
let him
doing.
know you got the job done.
Any item anywhere. Sell to me, and I'll find a buyer.
Yeah, I'm still gonna be like trying to figure some of that stuff out. Right now I'm working on my my appeal for my VA stuff. Still trying to get some back pay going.
Ah, that's the worst. Anything
I have
governmental.
it, but you must promise to help us get to
Yeah,
the
it could take a while, but I mean it'll be worth it if they actually, you know, try to
It's just I'm super busy with this whole
try to relook at it and get me some back pay. I mean, even if they go back, you know.
maybe, but I've got my company to look out for.
Perhaps
Even if
my
they don't go
beast
all the way
would
back, but they
enjoy
go
this
back maybe
grain
like
as a
halfway or
snack.
something, that would be really big.
Wait, okay, fine. I rebuilt Atlas from almost nothing, and I will do anything
I've been
to keep
playing
Malawar from taking out
and
one.
just
I swear on
taking a
this company's
break.
future that I will help you find and open the vault.
Where's this start?
That's as good a promise as any killer. Give the man what he needs.
Yeah. That was one of the issues with playing Borderlands 2, was that when you hit Ultimate, you just end up being in that sort of like dying state a lot, even if you're hitting enemies and keeping on point with guns.
I have never seen Reese squirm like that.
I think it's been pretty good so far here in True Mode.
Right here.
The
Still hear you. And
you know, not dying too much. I probably died about as many times in base game in normal all the way through as I've done so far.
this guy has everything up in there.
It is a bit
Supply lines, scouting data.
it can be one of those things that just pushes you away from like actually wanting to play the game and enjoy it. That's one of the reasons why I did stop playing 2. Was just like, well, I did get to the point where you're like looping around and you're always just doing the same thing over and over again. And of course, it kind of dries up. But it also does make it harder to want to continue playing when you get into those death loops. And particularly when you're like fighting against AI, you're also basically fighting the game cycle itself.
I'm going with Team Loser Stash? Come on, work with me here, superfan. This whole beef over the vaults has been getting mondo views, but it's got a shelf life. Specifically, when you die. So try to keep it going. Maybe
Okay, so like
find some
the game story-wise just did something that is, I think, actually good to like developing the character and having an actual enemy. At some point, the game really gives a lot of attention. So like they decided to make 2. Oh yeah, I didn't actually bother with the director's cut or the DLC or designer's cut. I figured I'd probably get those at some point, but 35 bucks for all the DLC is a little rough. I kind of rather like put that money towards something else.
How's your stocks been going?
You know, okay. You know, just get it really salty. Okay, so you know how Bitcoin has been getting yeeted, right?
Yeah.
So I've been trying to play against one of the other like followers or whatever, tracing sort of stocks instead of actually playing Bitcoin directly. And yeah, the summer sale had all the DLC on the season pass for pretty reasonable prices. But yeah, so I was playing against MicroStrategies and Coinbase. And so I did puts on it on Wednesday, and I'm like, all right, these puts are looking good on momentums. The side, there's not a downside to it. And for some reason, the MicroStrategy put it gets a blast off in the after hours, and it was just crazy. It moved $10 in after hours to the upside, and it's like this is just being pumped. But the Coinbase one didn't move like 50 cents. So my Coinbase play, I was able to lock in 100% on that play, but that MicroStrategies play went 50%, and then I just lost it all because it just got moved. Sure, they're not like dollars for dollars to each other in comparison, but it's just like that's the most annoying thing in the world. And like I'm only doing like 1 or 2 plays at a time, so I'm not like pumping down money into it. But I was looking at the game does tease you with the DLCs. Like it's like when you're in, you know how you're in Sanctuary in 2 as like the main home base.
Yeah.
They called it Sanctuary again. It's just like it's a spaceship or whatever, and the directors, I guess designers, they decided to put in the DLC as like advertisements actually in Sanctuary. They had like mission objectives on them, and they decided, hey, go buy this DLC. They did make a pretty good chunky amount of the content for the DLC. Like they have 4 actual like story-based ones that are pretty chunky, and they made these 2 special ones called Designer Cut and Director's Cut, and that's where you get the more intense, like the longer bit of a longer story and everything, and additional missions. And so it's kind of neat, but at the same time, I don't know if I want to like shovel out 35 bucks for a game I got free. I don't know. It's just like, you know, I haven't put any money into a free-to-play for like, you know, PlanetSide, let alone, you know, a 2019 game. It's weird to say that. Like, Borderlands 3 coming out in 2019? It's like, what is this product?
It's like if you've lived twice as long if you've lived during the Biden period.
aged 3 times. I'm only 27. How do I have gray hairs?
Yeah, it looks like they're fucking up the whole world right now.
Let's hunt.
Okay, alright, so, hey, gaming Braveheart, how do you change the gun skin? I'm a dingus, and I don't know how to change the gun skin. I don't see option for changing gun skin anywhere. I am in need of forum help.
Dingus.
I do think it's kind of cool you can change your little Echo skin, even though you saw like there's like 2 frames you see it when you're playing in Borderlands 2. Okay, so you know I was mentioning the how there's ads. Okay, so go in the inventory. It's actually in the inventory. I'm blind. Plastic dozer. Click on the gun. Like in any actual individual gun. Yes. Oh, just like any actual gun. Oh, okay. All right. R3. So what in the world would R3 convert to? Isn't that...
Oh, they do? Yeah. I only know his name, man. I don't know that's about it. That's it, just his name.
As a 7th generation merchant, I've always thought about having a little 8th generation merchant to manage the family business. I've even picked out a name. Vargas. Works for boys and girls. Have you seen that Saurian living upstairs? Maurice. Tanny says he is here in peace, but I don't believe that for a second. I see how he looks at the humans aboard. He's hungry, and I think he's been eating people. I saw him dragging a bag up to his den. A human-sized bag.
So I only can really compare things to like Destiny 1, as it's because I didn't play Destiny 2, and I can't imagine Destiny 2 is that different. It's my first playthrough, and I'm pushing I'm pushing here level almost 50, and it's my first playthrough, and I have a giant thing on the screen that says spin Guardian tokens. I don't know, this is kind of a no, it is my first character though. I haven't played any of the other characters. I've just played on Flak. I haven't touched any of the other ones, Maro or Mose or Zane or anything.
Claptrap, type broadcast to Athenas. Call sign Sapphire.
And comms open!
Alright, so these are story mission things that kind of take forever.
Bad time?
You kind of have to like not really be paying attention, but you... Okay, based on the position, so you look at this on the stream. You can when you fast travel into Sanctuary, you start at the very back of it. So where Sanctuary in Borderlands 2, you actually spawn into the middle of it, so you have access to everything pretty balanced. But here you have to walk through the entire. Oh shoot! I'm trying fast traveled. So you have to walk through the entire. Yeah, so you have to walk through the entire sanctuary to go to the story pieces. And that distance is kind of annoying because on your way over to, you know, the brig there where you're actually going to be doing the story stuff, you're going to do like stop by Marcus and drop off your guns, and you're going to do those you're going to do all those things before you get to the brig, and then you'll actually do the story things. But then you've already done, you know, the things that you can do while the story dialogue is going on while you're waiting before you get to this point. So does that seem too complainy? But it's just, that's just like a critical design thing that I just don't see why they did it like that. I get it, like they're kind of do like, oh hey, you know, we want to have a ship and make it everything, but all they had to do was move the fast travel thing into like the middle or something. Like that,
that's what happens when you have the limitations of like your development. You know, not everybody has all that experience.
Are you able to look at the stream right now?
I looked at it a second ago.
Yeah, but okay, look at it right now. This, this spot here would be perfect because, like, oh, what, you got Moxie here. They probably could have shuffled things around and put Marcus here, and then like you get Tannis up top and everything, or because they decided not to have Zed, you know, working. He's just there in voice, but not anything else. And like you still relatively have access to just about everything else. I'm gonna do the quick Maurice one because it's cheap. The big suck. What? Yeah, putting it right there in the middle makes sense because you have the ladder right in front of you. The ladder's not really that slow. Climbing the ladder is much faster in this game because you can jump climb and it's relatively fast. Like some games, it's like your ladder is just the slowest thing in the world. So drop Echo Lock. Here we go. Oh my god, you can get stuck in the AI. Just like the little NPCs walking around, you just get stuck on them. This is a bunch of free XP.
This is what I come online for, to listen to you complain about games.
It's kind of hard to do it when you're just sitting here by yourself. I kind of need like someone who can get at least like a man, that's crazy from every now and again.
Really? Thanks so much. You're the best, Maurice.
Wow, that's crazy.
Wow, that's crazy.
That can't be right. There's got to be some dirt somewhere.
Oh yeah, when you get so like what Braveheart's here is saying, it's like, yeah, when you have a mission that just like locks you in a room, it's like, oh, you gotta set the first story exposition. Oh man, it's so exciting.
Dang it, soggy biscuits again.
So like at least the story parts in 1 and 2 that trapped you around, I guess I'll go back to like the sanctuary, like taking off again, is a fairly interesting set piece, and there's kind of like a weird gimmicky thing you can do to like get around it. It's just because it's, you know, kind of a broken game, all things considered.
Maurice, you're the best. Hey everyone, Maurice saved Larry's brunch.
No, this is all wrong. Maurice is a Saurian, a cold-blooded killer. He's got to be up to something.
It's gotta be up to something. He's gotta be doing something sketchy. He's not human. I'm not sure who decided to like hide things around in this game. Like you would think, oh, everything would just be like inside a locker, and like, that kind of makes sense. Like, oh, it's kind of somewhere convenient, but instead it's like stuffed away, like someone was hiding it. Like, why would someone be hiding a little log thing? It was clearly somebody.
Why do you have to judge everybody, man?
Well, clearly that's someone who's in the editor view, you know, onto the development level, and it's just like, oh, I'm gonna look at the editor view and put this thing in a spot.
I can't wrap my head around this. He's just so nice. I have to think, Vault Hunter. Give me a moment. Vault Hunter.
Yeah, so the recent games, I played all the way through all the BioShock games, but starting with infinite DLCs, and then going to 1 and 2, and then 2's DLC. It's kind of interesting how the story pieces they try to glue with the DLCs, Infinite into Bioshock 1, and they tie together 1 and Infinite together as much as they can. But I think Minerva's Den DLC in Bioshock 2 actually has the best chance to be a continuation of the story. I thought 2's base story is kind of whatever. Its gameplay is a next logical conclusion. I don't think it's bad at all. I talk more about my thoughts on that at the end. I have a final stream I did for Bioshock 2. It's only like a few minutes, and I kind of talk through my thoughts on it.
Maurice would simply vomit blood on his scale brother. Yes. The perfect gift for Warmonger Marcus. You will take it to him.
Oh. Okay, so like, here's another like weird design decision. If you look at my screen, they have this whole little like dedicated space for Hammerlock because he had like a space in Borderlands 2. Like you would go to him on a few things, but he was just like in the corner of Moxie's place. He didn't actually have like an outfit spot. I think this is kind of an odd decision to have a whole dedicated space just for an advertisement. But yeah, so Bioshock, you could get away with playing the order of playing infinite DLCs, and then playing 1 and 2 in that order. That is kind of that's a pretty reasonable order if you want like a story that like plays itself out, but it kind of spoiled like the cutscenes kind of spoil Bioshock 1 a little bit. But you can play 1 and then Infinite and kind of all together. 2 really does stand on its own. You don't really have to play 2 in any particular order. You can kind of just jump into 2 whenever.
Maurice tried to kill me. I knew he was up to no good. Ah, what a relief. The last
Particularly the things in Bioshock, it tries to play off like it's supposed to be like a critique of like, you know, hyper-capitalism and everything, but they kind of throw in some interesting pieces in there about like the title villain who isn't actually like the main villain. They try to like play him off as like this, you know, super atheist capitalist type of guy. It's kind of an odd combo by today's standards. I think like the archetypical things of Bioshock are pretty good though. So like it's just, you know, you're in the city of Rapture and it's underwater, so essentially you're in the bottom of hell, and the idea is like, you know, the people there themselves have gone into Rapture, or, you know, that blissfulness, if you would. I need to add some more radiation and put that on cryo for the shotgun. And so that kind of like pieces together, I think, pretty well. And the Mad Doctor's thing is just kind of the opener. It's just like, it's supposed to be like in a doctor's office space, but the whole enemy types are just splicers and big daddies. And like, it plays together pretty well. So like, a lot of linear shooters will like miss out on some of the core things that like make a pretty decent game. But I think like Bioshock is actually a pretty good example of something that has a pretty darn completeness to all of it. Oh, I never did pick this one up.
You said that 5 missions ago. No, I said 5 missions 3 missions ago, and 3 missions 5 missions ago. Get it straight, soldier. Besides, numbers don't matter. Wars matter. You want to win this war or what?
Or what sounds good?
I don't give 2 turds in a Verkuvian ham sandwich what sounds good to you, soldier. You signed a contract. If you want to keep that iron...
Yeah. I'm going to skip on that dialogue. Yeah, we should pop in here more often, having some of the bounce things off with this, streamline the talking a little more. But yeah, Bioshock's worth the playthrough if you are into linear shooters. Infinite's probably the hardest play style because where 1 and 2 take place of the more, you know, mid-2000s shooter style, you get like the larger weapon selection, so it's more like Half-Life where you get like the wide amount of weapons to pick from. You know, it's just something that Infinite's decided to just give you the more modern shooter style with like 2 guns, and then there's a whole nonsense in Infinite about not having enough ammo, and think it's just I don't want to go down that route since I already talked about that during those streams. I probably should go through my streams and try to look for like highlights and try to make highlight reels on it. But I'm not recording, and that means having to download the streams and everything.
So they're all gone. Once you put them up live, they're gone.
You can download them on through the YouTube dashboard. But it's like you only download them at the quality that you streamed at. I'm trying to think about what else I played. I went through... What other games had gone through recently? Oh, there was Crisis 2, but that was a couple months ago when I got through Crisis 2. But it wasn't the first time I had played it.
I've been playing Division 2.
See, like, you know, the reason I was willing to play Borderlands 3 was because I played through 1 and 2 and pre-sequel as much as I did, and I played through Tales of the Borderlands and everything. So, like, I kind of have that the sense of established story. But, like, the Division games, I played the one beta of the original one, and it just never clicked. It seemed like they were missing core features, and they were so close to the release date on it.
I never played the first one. I started with the second one. I thought it was pretty good. I like it. I still like it. It gets kind of infuriating sometimes because it seems like they mess around a lot with like the AI in it. So you'll get like weird stuff. It's like it's very dependent on certain things happening, you know, like using your skills and your skills actually working, firing off the way they're supposed to. But sometimes you'll get, you know, like the enemies are immune to your skills and they won't do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Or they'll be like super aggressive, or they'll just keep on spawning like these bomber drones on you over and over and over and over.
Ugh.
And you're like, damn, how many freaking bombs you guys got?
That was one of the things with Destiny 1. Like, if you were, you know, in a raid, you had 6 people. If the mechanics of the raid like even broke a little bit, everyone would just be like, you know, tilted and pissed off and everything. And it's like, you know, pretty good reasons why.
Yeah, so I mean, in this one, it's kind of like just makes it more difficult, like a lot more challenging. You could probably still do it, but it gets to be like, geez, man, this is just brutal.
Handsome Jack collection.
That's why I'm here. Asses.
I remember when I had was in high school. You know, everyone was like, "Oh, Borderlands, that's a pretty good game to play." And that was, you know, just around the time when I like actually got into shooters and stuff. And I had GameFly. Gameplay was like still actually a pretty good deal. I think I just saw an ad for GameFly the other day, and I was like, "Wow, an ad for GameFly, it's crazy." And it's kind of impressive that it's still hanging around. But that's how I got introduced to the Borderlands, and it was probably about 2010, 2011, because I remember Borderlands 2 was coming out. I was like, I might as well play through Borderlands 1, and I was on PlayStation, PS3 when I had that, and then I did Borderlands 2 on PlayStation 3 as well before I got it on PC. But it's man, it's such different games, how they have evolved so well. But it goes to show, like, you know, you can't just make a franchise or an IP, even if you like use something like Tom Clancy's IP to make a good game. It takes, you know, it does take years to actually produce a product that's actually really decent. But it's really easy to see why, like, Borderlands 2 picked up really well. It just, like, you know, had the different gun types. You can kind of get away with anything. Oh, that's actually pretty decent. Oh my god, I'm gonna die. No. Alright. That's something I noticed. It's like, so far, even though the enemies pin me down pretty heavily, they're still not whacking me so hard that I can't get back up. Because, like, one of the things that would happen in 2 is that if you got killed by you get killed by one of the AI, you essentially were just doomed because the AI were kind of programmed to kind of run away from you if you got too close. So if you were trying to like play like a Krieg build and you didn't have fight for your life, the you were basically doomed because you would just not be able to shoot the enemies, and that was basically like any play style. You just would have the hardest time actually getting somewhere. Oh my god, there's so many of them. Actually, if I didn't have Quasar, I wouldn't be able to raggle the enemies up like I am doing. That's something I've noticed so far, is that it was definitely big in Borderlands 1 to either be running a transfusion because you just needed the help all the time, or you would have to be running like something like Singularity on it. But throughout the main base, a normal game playthrough, I hardly saw any grenades that weren't impact or delay, which is like kind of odd that the grenades would be like that. Like all the named grenades all had like a Quasar Longbow, but there's not much of a reason here to have transfusion. I could turn on transfusion for my racks if I wanted to. The AI just teleported.
Coast's clear.
It's always jarring when the AI do that.
When we're not at war, the bells of
Peace ring all hours of the day and night. Kind of a nightmare, honestly.
Okay, see, little jokes like what was just told, like those little jokes are funny. They add to the world building and they're short. And, like, you can play those same jokes over and over and over again, and they actually are pretty good. It's like the long, drawn-out, like, exposition pieces that I think really hurt the story, because they were trying to, like, put in characters like Ava. It's like, she serves no purpose. It's not like she's, like, a nerdy character, like, knows a lot of things, and, like, oh, she's, like, really smart because she hangs out in the library. No, she's, like, she's supposed to be, like, this weird character that's mixed between, like, a rogue and... like, the character doesn't pay attention, but is also supposed to be like, oh, I'm supposed to be learning, and I'm a kid. But they once again, they do the same problem with the main bosses, the main antagonists or whatever. They don't complete, like, the cycle. If you know what I mean. Like the enemies, like, never, they're, like, always trying to play different parts. Oh, he's up here. Alright, look. I did it to myself. Oh wait, yeah, the AI is programmed to come help me. Yeah, come help me, yeah. Do it. Oh, I lost my pet, darn. You... hold still. Alright, so... I don't know. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure in Borderlands 2 you could be shooting the enemies while you actually move around and stuff. I might be wrong about that. It has been a minute. Do you remember that? If you were in 2 and you were trying to heal a friendly, you could actually move around and shoot. I knew you could move around a little bit, but I don't think you could shoot.
I don't remember.
What? Why you're just throwing a grenade? Why are you throwing a grenade? There's no one around.
I can shatter that crystal.
He's got grenades to throw, man. I mean, you know.
Just is like, I'm throwing a grenade. At what?
Doesn't matter. You just throw them. It's what they tell us in the military. They're like, here's your grenades. We want to see you come back with them.
When did you eat that?
Make sure you put those grenades somewhere useful. Don't forget to pull the pin. And also, don't forget to throw it, or you'll end up like Two-Finger Jimmy over there. You'll end up like Sergeant One Finger.
Dude, I shit you not. There are literally people that stupid.
He looks.
You really wouldn't think so, but when you meet them, and you're just like, wow, there really are people that stupid.
You're like, wow. Oh yeah, I wanted to use this Malawan. Oh, it's gonna be hard to look this Torg in the eye and sell it, because it's.
I mean, have you seen what, like, I don't remember what the recent what the recent IQ studies show.
No,
I know IQ is not a really good gauge, but still, they were saying like the average IQ of people is pretty low.
Hey, look, they gotta smarten them up somehow. See, military is just.
No, you don't smarten them up. That's totally not the point. It's like there's just smart people and there's dumb people. And the dumb people do the shit that nobody else wants to do. And the smart people, they basically can figure their ways into good position.
Look how those politicians.
I mean, that's just basically the way it is. There's just some people, they just don't know how to, like, govern themselves or live their lives.
Hey, look, so even in the world of auditing.
Glorious quarrel.
Yeah, we'll blame it on social media. Oh my god. I mean, that's basically kind of like the meta thing that's being talked about here, is that,
those damn TikToks.
Apparently, so it's real impressive that people actually bother TikTok on, like, producing content, because apparently it doesn't pay at all. But it's probably a little bit easier to get monetized. Like, YouTube's monetization standards are pretty tough if you're not, like, making videos constantly.
I think it's probably more about just the notoriety, you know, gaining fame.
Yeah, I mean, like, organic growth.
If you're known, yeah, if you're known for a TikTok, you're like super famous, you're popular. And then from there, people are willing to monetize that, like, you know.
Yeah, then you can switch over to YouTube, make those compilations and stuff.
Bite and slash.
What do we got here? I got a. It's hard to look a Nagata right in the eye and not switch to it. It always comes up Longbow. Stupidity for stupidity's sakes. Well, I mean, like.
It's always helpful.
Alright, so, like, I will say the thing they do right in this game is that they make. You know, they really let you know, like, oh, all the bandits are supposed to be, like, the dumb masses and everything, because they're willing to chop off their favorite leg for, you know, the people that they're praising. So, I will say, like, they do things like that, right? And that's, like, something that will give credit where credit is due.
You mean as far as, like, poking at, you know, reality?
Yeah, just, like, you know, giving, like, a story piece. It's just like, that isn't necessarily what you would want in a story when it has to call back to reality all the time. Oh, yeah. I mean, I like my Quasar. Okay, so, like, I harp on the Hyperion, like, snipers, because I just don't like the way the fire rate works on those. I'd rather have something like, a Ladoff sniper, or even a Doll sniper. This is a pretty cheap mission, I'll go ahead and do it. But the Hyperion grenades are always usually really good. So I'm pretty sure the Stormfront's a Ladoff grenade. But so, but Quasar and Nagata, those are, because I think all the Hyperion legendary grenades are all one word. It's something like that. But all those grenades were basically carries over from 2. But it's hard not to switch over to Nagata. Okay, that is something. So one of the complaints I saw in one review was talking about how, like, oh, there's too many legendaries and things like that, or whatever. You get legendary drops so much. But if you look at the pacing of the game, you don't really need to worry about when you get to the later points of the game, like, sure, you just keep the same guns over and over again and you'll farm for the ones that you want. but getting the legendaries in between on the lower level, like what I'm doing, it just makes more sense to just keep getting the legendaries over and over again, or getting new ones that you kind of rotate in between. Because at some point, you're just always going to stick with them anyways.
It would appear that this monster has died of over-intoxication. Ah, do me an additional favor and retrieve its liver. Disavow them, my divine murderer.
Are you talking about as far as farming?
Yeah, so like the complaint was something along the lines of there's like you get legendary drops too frequently or whatever. But it's like, oh, just because of the fact that you're gonna be constantly switching out for those legendaries, you're gonna be tossing out the old ones, regardless of what they are, for the the weapons that are on your level. That you're just gonna be kind of like using the same collection of weapons, kind of regardless. So those legendary drops are just something you're just gonna have to be living with anyways. Oh, Pet Hero is about to get whacked by that. But yeah, and the guy is really satisfying to get laying the hits on.
We don't have one of those. We have a Nagata.
What in the what? What did I get here? I haven't used any of the male weapons like at all. I don't think any of them have been any good, or at least not good in the way that I wanted. I feel like if this game was formatted more like Borderlands 1, where you had to like actually do some farming, then the male weapons would be pretty decent because it'd be like a little extra reward. So there's like a mail system. Like you get like mail from like the vendors, like how Hyperion sends you like a gun because you used all the Hyperion guns or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's like a neat little concept. However, the guns themselves are either like under-leveled, or they're just
well, they want you to use them, you know, like for videos and make reviews.
It's funny. But like I'm saying, it's like if that was something that would happen in like Borderlands 1, that'd be actually kind of cool, because you would have this, you would be farming more often, so you would have to be killing more. Missed the bell.
When we monks take the oath of non-violence, we must relinquish all our worldly weapons. They are stored nearby, and I urge you to take whatever you need from our weapon depository, my vivisecting avenger. Then return to me.
Yeah, but when I first did this mission, this like little like side quest, I did it like way after like I actually get past this point.
I admit I am conflicted by my power.
And so like I was coming back and getting a bunch of like off level weapons when it's kind of like it's like off the beaten path, and it's kind of encouraging to do it.
The will of the storms. You have given me much to ponder, Vault Hunter, and much to drink. Salut. Truly, this is the happiest of hours. Ah, and I see you've gathered the pickled rat livers I asked for. Très bien, très bien. An additional reward is another.
Rat's liver.
You see, these pickled rat livers are actually the secret ingredient behind our holy spirits. We keep a flock of rats for this purpose, but...
Much needed level up. Tag and frag. I'll probably save up for that one.
They escaped their bonds and started running wild throughout the distillery.
Alright, thanks Braveheart. Don't be afraid to sub, like, share, and all that fun stuff. What do we got here? Anything? Ooh, that's a Torg. A hyena. Thanks. It's always worth having those subs. They make a difference. Get a push up on that that ladder day after day. I need to find one of those services that, like, I don't know if those exist. Or, like, you know, send them the video and they'll try to edit it down for you. I gotta wonder how much one of those costs. I'm sure you can find like freelance editors. If I even get like, you know, that like once a month, and it's like maybe like under $100 or something, it might be worth doing. A polisher. Obviously not going to use the rocket launcher. Rocket launchers just have always been kind of the least favorite guns. Although technically, if you run a Quasar setup, or if you even run a singularity of cryo, then that's probably like the main place to have a rocket launcher. Oh, get the skill points. Anything decent in the master?
Yeah, you said you were going with the singularity of what?
Oh, so if you're doing anything that's singularity, rocket launchers are usually a pretty decent combo with that.
Yes, PlanetSide, can you please flip my harasser for no reason?
Yeah, I would have flipped out of the vehicle and he would not stop me. Okay, so I'll give it the Borderlands. So like in Borderlands 1, like the vehicles just flipped like crazy. It was hilarious. It was like, you know, silly funny, but at least the vehicle didn't die if you flipped it over. But they've locked it. So like they locked the vehicle's rotation and the 1 and 2, or your 2 pre-sequel and 3 here, and it's like that's just how a vehicle should be. It is like, it's one thing when it's in a shooter, it's like, oh, it's balanced because if you flip over, you die. But it's also just supposed to get me places sometimes, you know? But the purpose of the vehicle is just to, like, get the point B. Alright, so I was running the hyena here. Now, do I want to run the jackal? Probably not. Just because, like, radiation was pretty nice. But my Travanator is kind of starting to see some age. Oh, but the chaos. Oh, I spent $1 million in-game money on the chaos. It's a doll assault gun or assault rifle, and it has gamma burst with corrosive. So that's basically
Is that a bad idea?
What was the question?
Was that a bad idea?
Oh, having gamma burst with the that's what basically tried to I almost killed myself with it earlier, because if you whack an enemy, they have the gamma burst on them, and which can hurt you and kill you. All right, so I gotta go find a delinquent. See, like, there's really minor things. All they had to do to make her decent. And it was just like, you have a kid character, so they should like learn lessons from their mistakes and things. Instead, it's just like, no one is her parent and no one wants to raise her, which is almost like a reflection of the modern state.
Is it?
Hey, look, no one wants to have kids, so they're just abandoning them. And like, they try to like, you know, play out her character a little bit, like, oh, she's supposed to be abandoned and lonely and stuff. But they never like use that.
Are you talking about Tina?
No, Ava. She's like this annoying. It's like Tina's like has a purpose in Borderlands 2. She's like the explosives expert, and then Roland's basically like the father figure to her. But Ava doesn't have like any parental figure in the game to like as a character that take on that role. And the one they give her with Maya, who really isn't, just dies. Just like why?
So they're basically trying to get you to like another character without really developing them.
Or like giving them like a hook. That's what I was saying earlier. They don't like.
There's no story. There's no commitment. There's nothing to. They're just like, hey, here's this person, and you should care about them because they're part of the game that we made.
But
It's like lazy storytelling.
Yeah. And to add on to it's like a lot of characters are like that in 3 here. They just added a bunch of characters alongside some of the existing ones. Okay, you can get up here, but what are you supposed to do when you're on top?
I heard that when you're on top, you shit on the little people.
Yeah, one of the things, so like, it was a GDQ presentation, or it was one of like the announcement they did for Borderlands 3 like years ago. One of the things they were touting is like, we're gonna have a bazillion characters, just like we have a bazillion guns. But the dilemma there is that when you just have a bunch too many cooks situation, oh my god, right? I'm trying to get on top of this thing because it looks like you can't.
So like you get a lot of different choices, but not a lot of good choices.
And it's obviously like characters you don't play. Oh my god, can I fly? Why? Platforming. But it's yeah. So that just became a dilemma. Was the too many cooks thing, and then it's like, oh, every little section's got to have another thing. And get this, so like, you know, Tina rolls back up, she, you know, in that one point in the game, and a lot of the sequences, if they just changed the sequences of some of the things, the story actually would be a little bit better. Oh, almost fell off. Alright. But yeah, the sequence of things, if they were like even a little bit different, they would make a little more sense. It's like there's this whole part where you have to go find a navigation AI, but you just kind of stumble into finding a navigation AI. And one of the first things you do early on, like one of the first missions, is finding a navigation chip. And it's like, why do we have 2 missions related to a navigation setup, you know, for the spaceship? You know, that doesn't make a bit of sense. But yeah, so like there's so you know, Tina's supposed to be explosive expert, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so they, you know, replay her character and everything, but there are missions that you just had people telling you to get together explosives, and it's like, would she not have been in this situation at all in any meaningful capacity? And it's like, no reuse of the characters for things that are core to their character at all. And yeah, just kind of the things like that are reoccurring so often throughout the story. It's like, why do we have this mission? It makes no sense. So,
of course it does.
Of course, the mission, it doesn't make a bit of sense. No one knows what's going on. So it really feels like there was just a lot of bulk made to the game. The areas are really bulky. So I was using the term bulky, so like the levels are kind of big and chunky. But you know how like every zone in Borderlands 2 is fairly unique. Like, oh, you can distinguish the dust from, you know, opportunity because it's a big city and one's a wood desert space. You know that makes sense, right? You know how the areas in Borderlands 2 are all fairly distinct from each other, right?
Yeah.
In 3 here, maybe Athena's is probably the best, you know, like, distinguishing area, because it's just a level, it doesn't have any cars, but all the other maps, so when you're on Promethea or Eden 6, like, the whole map just looks the same. Like, the entire map is just the same map, without any, like, distinguishing features, but every single area in 2 was a distinguished area. And so that's just...
But in this one, they don't like you, so they didn't make any distinguishable areas.
Yeah, like, when you're on Promethea, it's like all of Promethea looks the same, and it's just kind of the same level over and over again, and the enemies are just Malawant enemies, and it's like, alright, whatever. And then you suddenly, you start out finding bandit characters, and all the bandit characters can teleport around the planet, of the galaxy, because they have the enemy do that, for reasons. And, they make you on Promethea, that the second planet you go to early on, you go and you fight the bandits, but you also fight them alongside, you know, actual soldiers, and it's like, why does this work? But instead of like continuing that theme, like, oh, there's like regular soldiers also fighting against fighting the bandit enemies, you just like kind of acknowledge that happened, and you kind of moved on, and now you're just fighting soldiers on another planet without any connection to the previous stuff. It's like all the areas were just made so independent of each other, there just wasn't anything to connect them. Hey, look, I think that's a valid critique.
I think what we're probably just seeing is just a big transitional period from, you know, like the people that used to make games that were rich in like lore and storytelling and stuff like that. They're pretty much being phased out for something more simple.
Well, like, I mean, that's pretty valid. Like the Blizzard founders, most of them had left. Probably were like the majority of the time that they were owned by Activision in the past several years. But probably think
it's kind of like what they did with Star Wars. Like they
bought it and pushed
Star Wars
people
was
out.
very rich with lore, and it was, you know, it was what it was, and people loved it. But then they came out and they really did a lot of underdeveloped characters just to push out, you know, characters for, I guess, for sales.
Yeah, like, well, they already had the things that they needed to do, and then you gotta like pander to audiences, and like, oh, you gotta pander to the, you know, the postmodernists, and then you always pander to the Chinese, and it's like, you know, is the money really worth it at that point when you have to like reinvent the wheel?
There was I don't know if you've ever saw it, but there was this character. She was really forgettable, but they wanted to make her an integral piece of like the, you know, the lore. Her name was Rose Tico, and the merchandising for her was really bad. Like, people would report like going to Walgreens and seeing like, you know, nothing but her figures there on sale and stuff, because nobody literally wanted to buy them or cared about her.
When that's the same thing with the Marvel comics and a lot of the DC comics, like the comics made by fairly, you know, postmodern, I guess it's like the kind of the simplest way of saying it, the postmodernist neo-Marxist tapes would make those products, and then what happens? Nobody buys those things. So it was somebody, it was one of the couple of videos I was watching where people were pointing out like manga in like a bookstore, like a Barnes & Noble, and it's like 4 or 5 shelves of manga, and then like 1 shelf for American comics, because they know exactly who's buying their product, and they know exactly what products they're buying.
I think the other stuff gets stolen, doesn't it?
I'm not sure, but it goes into like something like guys like Zack Snyder, like his books will actually sell in the Batman material, but you get, you know, anything from some like no-name or you know, writer that just like doesn't make a bit of sense, or they're just like new. And this was a couple things that got pointed out. They would hire these like writers and artists, and like the artists you can kind of like, you know, whatever, but the writers, they would be just random people who just got pushed up on Twitter, and then now they're suddenly like able to work at DC and like have almost no experience or something, because they like made like 1 webcomic like a year ago or something.
Oh, like wokevists.
Yeah, so
yeah, it's, I mean, you know, I could understand it if like the message was really being merchandised in a way, you know. Like if really like they were like, oh well, this is a really popular message and people really want to stand for this stuff, but I think what you're getting is like a bunch of squeaky wheels trying to tell people what they should be.
Yeah,
you know, they're like, oh yeah, this is what you should be merchandising.
Yeah, follow the marching
orders.
orders.
They find out, yeah, and then they start doing it, and they're like, wait a minute, nobody likes this shit. We're like, yeah, no one likes this shit, especially people that go out and make the money. They just don't like that shit.
And of course, like they pander to like the loud minority of voters, and then it's so bizarre. Like, you know, profiteering, you know, corporations will listen to the rhetoric like it's gospel, and it's just so bizarre.
Well, really, it's not bizarre. They're looking at it from a bottom line. How can we How can we make money off of it?
Oh, they're trying to. You think they're trying to make money off the squeaky wheels, and they're who?
Oh yeah, well actually, even my daughter, like she sees it all the time. She gets so bad because I told you, she says she's trans, right? And but she likes boys. But it's whatever, you know. We'll get to that later. But the whole thing is, she'll be like, you know, how they had the whole.
All the schools like push it.
The private, yeah, like everywhere we would go, like the stores, man, it would be like, you know, they would have a little poster in their. He would have a poster like in their window, and she'd be like, "Dad, I can't believe they do this stuff."
Look, what exactly is the poster?
It would be like Pride Month. We support Pride. She was like, "Where were these people? You know, back when they were needed." Like, when were they supporting it? When were they trying to do all this?
Yeah. But like, so that goes to show it's like a lot of people kind of don't care about it, the actual like thoughts behind it, because most people are actually postmodernist, neo-Marxist types, anyways. Which those two shouldn't even be a thing. So if you know anything about those, like I kind of, unfortunately, I paid attention to it a little more than I
know a lot of the superficial stuff because I've listened to a lot of people talk about it. But I haven't actually studied anything about Marxism, but I understand the underlying principles.
But yeah, so the postmodernists are not supposed to like the Marxists, but for some reason they're like buddy just to go against like Western values. It's so bizarre how that partnership works. Do you know what the postmodernism is all about?
Right now?
Just like the old philosophical things about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like you have things like you know, Marxism, where it's just all about down with it's a grand narrative all about trying to like level things out on a playing field under the guise of egalitarianism.
Yeah,
it's so bizarre.
We're talking about equity and not equality.
Meritocracy is basically like what we're trying to aim for. That's where like the leaders rise up and they, you know, push forward they push forward the value of society.
But isn't that contrary to Marxism? I mean, it's not about meritocracy. It's about
no. Like so, like the counter to the postmodernist, neo-Marx, the postmodernist neo-Marx. So like they're trying to push egalitarianism and the idea of equality and equity, and they're trying to like get you mixed up on the terms. Oh my god, I killed myself because I exploded the enemy.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
And so like the counter to it is that meritocracy and like pushing and like, well, that's a state where the people try to like rise up and actually be productive members of society. But
yeah, well, if they're not careful, they're going to get what they want, and then they're going to realize, oh shit. But you know, I'm hoping that transition is going to be further down the line, so I won't have to be here for it.
It's like, you know, that material like leaks into the schools. It's like, oh, the same school system that. So it was kind of funny. I was listening to this podcast talking about, you know, some people think the school system is messed up, and the counter line to it, which was absolutely perfect, was that no, the school system isn't messed up. It's working just as it was intended to be built and made, which was, you know, basically being opioid to the masses. I can't remember who the people who were responsible for actually setting up the system, but it's working exactly as intended, which was to basically like push the government's narrative and put that on the people, and so that they learn what the government wants them to learn and everything. And so
it was based off of the industrial model, when they needed factory workers and people to, you know, do all the small stuff. They needed to follow schedules and follow orders and stuff like that.
And that like is kind of a piece of it. And it's it gets the guy expands upon, it's like, oh, it was designed in these ways to, you know, get those messages forward. And who are these people who are writing these messages? Well, it's the, you know, hyper postmodernist types who are trying to convince all the students that they're actually they're probably trans because they didn't do these things exactly, and they're trying to break down the, you know, the lively systems as they are. And so that's basically what we see today, is that like result of it. Of, you know, letting basically, you know, single white women into the force after they go through these colleges and they learn all that material that they were put down because they probably came from these.
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting word that you use, like you say, learn. You know, because the whole model right now is for you to learn what they tell you to learn.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be. Well, actually, I don't even really remember them. I mean, more when I was growing up, it was sort of leaning towards critical thinking, thinking about things on your own. You know, figuring things out, that kind of thing.
And now today
But
it's
still,
critical theory, and they try to like
well,
play those
now-
words around.
Yeah, now there's no more of that. There's no more like let's you know, let's take the argument, let's break it down into its constituent parts. Let's look at the evidence. Let's look at your, you know, what you're making a claim. The person's making a claim. How do we how do we validate that claim? And that's one thing that isn't being done anymore. Not on any scale, really. I mean, when you're talking about people from their political ideologies, they don't even want to talk anymore. Well, at least the ones that are. They're just like, no, well, I don't want to talk about the evidence. I don't want to talk about any of that stuff. I just want to talk about what I think and how I think.
Oh my god, I'm getting popped by something. No. No, the nearest AI is a million miles away. Oh. Gotta do the boss over.
You're dead.
But yeah, that's so like what the cycle became, it's like, oh, you would think, oh, you would have these, you know, small town, you know, people would be doing small town things and they'd be pushing forward like small town values and small towns, but that's not actually the case because they got to the big towns and they learned the big town stuff that because all the small town people, and yeah, so you can see how things got crazy really quick.
Well, I've actually seen this different idea now. What they're talking about, what they want to do is they want to get everybody out of the farms, out of the agriculture. They want to move everybody into these burbs, these cities, and that way they're going to be totally dependent on everything from the manufacturing of goods, and the manufacturing of food is going to be left to pretty much the people that are allowed to do it by the government. And probably most likely would be bigger corporations.
And that's also what technically it was considered the rise of the fascist state. So
yeah, I mean, in principle, like capitalism seems like a good idea, but what we're experiencing isn't like a laissez-faire capitalism. We're experiencing crony capitalism.
Well, there's also corporatism separate from capitalism, because as we were talking about earlier, like the corporations are trying to survive with the environment that they have, which has been, you know, wrangled up.
Well, that's the most important part that they can do. That's about the easiest way they can do it, is by manipulating the government with, you know, they're using their money and their power, their influence.
Yeah, it's one of those things like, so this like listen to the Mises material is actually like really good because they break it down so well.
Oh yeah, you listen to von Mises. You were part of the Mises Institute.
Hello.
And they had their Mises week this week, but particularly guys like Bob Murphy and Jeff Dice, they really break it down on
I got some good people on there.
Come on.
We need a sign that says it's been this many nanoseconds since Claptrap's last
Give
screw
me
up.
that glowy thing.
Just saying.
You see this? I can't. There's no. Oh my god.
I've never been able to use Iridium the way Lilith does, but I found it.
So yeah, they talk about it and break it down really well. It's like, well, the corporations they survive by both manipulating the law and getting people on their side. So like, there's the smarter politicians, which would count as like your Nancy Pelosi types. Like obviously she understands the system so well, she knows how to manipulate it to her favor, hence how she got into her position. So like they know what laws that need to be changed and manipulated to get their way and how they're doing those negotiations. And then the lesser ones, like your big social media AOC types or squad types or whatever, and those types, they just listen to what the big dogs tell them to do, and they kind of just learn from it.
Yeah, AOC she's more like a TikToker. She knows how to manipulate the social media to like get people to like her.
Yeah.
But she doesn't really have anything substantive going for her.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's like, obviously, it was Brett Weinstein who said this. It was like, no, it's not. You know, power corrupts or whatever. You know how that phrase goes, like
Yeah, power corrupts.
But so he flips. So he flips a phrase. It's like, no, you know, absolute power goes to the ones who are absolutely corruptible or something like that. And that's like, oh, that's a much better way of phrasing that, because it's obvious the ones who know how to like abuse the power, you know, get into those deals, and who are already often corrupt to begin with, who get into those intense power positions.
Yeah, well, you know, like on a small scale, I don't know if you ever saw it. I think it was called War Dogs. Did you see that one about those arms dealers? They're just like young. It was based off.
Yeah, I know the story, but I never watched the movie.
I mean, that was almost a perfect example how they were just like they didn't really do anything wrong. They were
using the system to their advantage.
Yeah, and you know they were like, "Holy shit! Why isn't everybody doing it?" Because not everybody knows the system. I mean, not everybody knows the laws. I mean, there's so many laws that really nobody can know them all.
Yeah, and that's how we get into some of the core problems today with like bad property rights. So that's another capital. So like the human capital whole segment of like things to worry about and know are one of the core things today that are problematic. So that's like everything under the capital are the property rights. And then there's a lot of other subsections, but property rights is also like right to repair is under that, zoning laws are under that, then copyright itself is under that. And so those are all negative impactors on human capital today.
Well, I mean, there's also the whole thing with land. You know, land not being able to be owned by a person anymore, individuals. You really can't own your land anymore. And it really depends. I mean, I don't know how many people.
Those go under the zoning laws. So like that's a sub argument of zoning laws. It's like, well, yeah, you can't really have owners anymore. The zoning laws basically outlawed that, and then like the idea of doing zoning laws was like one of the main issues. So that goes under like the capital. So like you can't. So it's really hard to actually get capital, and it's become the government made it so hard to acquire capital, and they basically discouraged anyone with things like Social Security to like save money and build capital and actually be a capital developer. So that's something I get real obsessed about is the capital side of things.
Yeah, well, it's the easy part. You just make a machine that prints out the dollars over and over. I mean, it's even easier now because now we got digital currency.
Yeah, so that's like the idea behind like crypto. It's like, no, you don't hold crypto because you think you can make a quick buck on it. You hold crypto because you want to, push back against regime holdings and improper uses of money.
I suppose I'll take that.
I mean, I mean, even in the very simplest sense, like the fiat currency, the whole issue is that when the Fed can just enter money into a system, never having actually, backed it with gold or anything else.
And it's driven by politicians who just don't have an unlimited budget. They can just go to the treasury of the Fed and just say, give us the money. And
didn't they just say that recently? They're like, we have an unlimited supply. They're like, we can print forever. And
it's like, well,
I mean,
inflation.
It was like
that's Russia.
Because they were saying, they're like, oh, inflation's not bad.
And it's such a bizarre thing. It's like, oh, if you only listen to the Fed, you would think, oh, like a little bit of inflation, that's a good thing. It's like, no. If you actually just raise the potential value that people hold, you actually gain additional capital. So essentially, fiat currency also takes away capital potential. So the best place for people to put capital is in housing. So people will buy a big house because it has the best potential capital for eventual return. But the issue is that capital is become tax delinquent on the cities, and the cities are now have been bleeding money for probably the past like 70-something years because of single-use zoning. So people can't take their house and make it something better. You can't like make a business out of it. It's illegal to like run a business out of your house, essentially.
A new vault key fragment.
Yeah.
Holding this makes my skin tingle. That and I ate
It's all very interesting shit, man. But how many people can like wrap their brains around this stuff?
Yeah, it's one of those things like, oh, all you have to do is just tell the next generation how to do it better. And so
well,
that
you
takes
can't
forever.
tell them because they're just not going to care.
Yeah.
I mean, really, to be honest, dude, I'm like trying to talk to my daughter. Like she listens to a lot of stuff I tell her, but then some stuff you can tell her eyes just glaze over and she's just like, shut up.
Oh, like the trans thing is all just like a temporary thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, like there are certain topics that she doesn't like to talk about, but sometimes she'll just come out and just start babbling off all this stuff. I mean, really coherent stuff, and I'll be like, Okay, so she was just waiting to really talk about it.
Ah, so like stuff that you would agree with or approve of?
Oh no, yeah, very much, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we talk about that I very much agree with. I think the problem is that she hasn't really understand the whole idea of like boys liking girls. I think she understands like a lot of it, but she doesn't understand what the feelings are because she likes boys a lot.
Oh.
But she doesn't want to be a girl because of things like, you know,
it's that social thing that's pushed on her.
I think that's more of anything. I think it's just socially, it's more acceptable that people find, you know,
Finally, someone who
these things more likable. And I get it. I mean, I understand why.
You don't want to be pushed out of your social
think
group when it's all around you all day.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I understand why they think these things, and I don't really blame them for it. What I try to do is try to make her think critically about it, and that's the part that she fights me on the most, because when we start talking about it and I start, you know, talking about facts and the evidence and stuff and breaking it down, and she starts going, because it's not going her way, and she doesn't really want to argue it, you know what I mean? And it's at that point, it's like, well, you got to listen to the rest of the argument. You kind of started this, you know, so I'm slowly getting her to that point where she's learning to sit and listen with it, even if she doesn't like it.
You got to get around that Mises material.
Yeah, well, eventually, you know, one thing at a time. I think that's probably the one thing I really want her to learn is, you know, individual responsibility, you know, learn to take care of herself, to be independent, so that she doesn't really have to depend on other people.
Scrolls on the Talos Empire you requested, along with your
You know, really just being smart with money. I mean, she can accomplish a lot just doing that.
Yeah, you got to get them. You got to get into those. Have you ever thought about Have you ever thought about trying to get her into like a private school or something?
I mean, I thought about like homeschooling her, just because I think that would probably be something. I like two schools of thought. I know that just like kind of colleges, right? When you go to colleges and stuff, they make you take all those courses because they want to give you a feel for like what's out there.
Yeah.
So even though they're useless, but in that concept, I'm kind of like, yeah, you should do that, but maybe not at their expense. You know, where they're having to take all these courses for nothing.
You could do the Ron Paul school homeschool program.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's something along the lines, because his is very, very much geared towards, you know, getting them his maximum college credits, so that if they do decide to do that, you know, that they're already ahead of the game before they even start college. I think he was saying most of the people that go through Ron Paul's schools end up only having like a little bit over a year, you know, left of school between everything.
Yeah.
Like in college, so they only have to go for like another year or something like that after they get out of high school, because they have so much AP courses. She's 12. She's gonna be 12.
That's probably the perfect time to jump ship onto it.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Didn't you move closer to her?
Yeah, I am now. I live like.
You probably couldn't. You couldn't get her mom onto the situation.
It's a work in progress, man.
Hey, look, as long as you're working at
it. She's probably not too far along, because she's got problems with the whole social idea of what's going on right now too, and she doesn't really realize what the source of it all is. But I think a little bit more.
It's not obvious. I mean, I had to stumble into that information, you know.
Well, I'm kind of telling her, like, look, the stuff that she's getting, it's not just from. She thinks it's mostly from like being on her phone and being on the internet. And I was like, oh, well, that's a good portion of it. I was like, but most of it's coming from school. I was like, most of it's coming from your friends. It's coming from the material in school. I was like, a lot of this stuff. I was like, it's very pervasive. So just to think that if there were any kid out there that didn't question what their gender identity was at this point, it would be kind of odd.
Yeah, like when I was growing up,
because this is
here in Georgia, like, you know, that was just before all that, like, you know, Facebook really started kicking off. So it's like I had a really wide diversity in my growing up. Like, it was pretty normal to me. I didn't realize it was a fairly abnormal thing to have like the level of diversity, like, you know, ethnic diversity. It's like there was only like 1 or 2 Muslim girls like ever, but there was a lot of Koreans, there's a lot of black-white mix, a lot of Hispanic going on in my particular area, and it was pretty crazy. It's like all this, it was just all kind of normal to me. It's like, oh, everyone just knows how to deal with these situations and stuff. And like, I know how to enjoy, you know, particular things. Like, yeah, I watch a lot of like YouTubers that do skits and stuff, and it's like I enjoy their flavors, and because I understand it a lot better. And that's something like I didn't really realize until later, that most people just don't have that or didn't grow up with that. It was so kind of odd when I was kind of figuring that out. And then I had the extra fortune of, like, in college, of like having a lot of international people to talk with. And I was also double fortunate because I was at a STEM school, so that also helped out. Like,
yeah, so you were around a lot of intelligent people.
Yeah, I had a lot of big brain types.
That kind of, I think that helps though. You know, that helps you as far as like, because the people you're around, you know, they're not necessarily going to go around like spouting all the stupid stuff. Like, they're not going to be dancing TikToks and stuff, like doing the latest trend.
I remember getting exposed to that stuff really early on in 2014 because I was an RA, and so they would do trainings on the other campus, and it'd be like other campus types, and like, oh, what's their title? And it'd be like, oh, there'd be some like really odd title. It'd be like something like, you know, sociology, you know, something major, whatever. It's like, all right, whatever, you know, I'm not gonna really question it because I don't really know a lot. And there was times it's like, oh, you can clearly tell they're trying to do these exercises to like categorize people and like put lines in the ground, and it's like there was enough. I think most people in that group, because like they were probably like me, they grew up in Georgia and they had that like extra diversity they were kind of growing up with. So not too many people were really like accepting or pushing that or like being okay with it. They were just kind of ignoring it. But you know, that was like the first time I was really ever exposed to it. Like there wasn't like an occurrence like before that. It was just like it just like popped into existence and people were doing it. But it wasn't until like later I found like, oh, this has been something that's been like happening for like, you know, decades now.
You're talking about diversity?
The whole like, you know, postmodernist sort of mindset and things.
Yeah, I mean it's very far removed from the way we grew up, where like we were saying meritocracy. I mean, you know, from the very beginning when I was a young kid, I think I told you the story. Like I went into for a supermarket job to be a bagger of all things, right? Very entry level. It was my first job ever, the white owner of the place, he asked me, you know, and I didn't really consider anything, you know. I thought it was funny that he was white because he lived in El Paso, but he was like, what do you think about affirmative action? I was like, I've heard of the word, but I don't really understand what it is. I think it has something to do with race, you know. I was a young kid, so I didn't know that much about it. He was like, well, basically, he was like, it says that, you know, people should be hired because of their color, not because of, you know, the content of the character, you know, how intelligent they are, whether they're a good fit for the job. He was like, I was like, oh, okay, I understand. He was like, would you want me to hire you for a job, you know, if you weren't fit for it just because you were, you know, Latino? And I was like, no. I was like, I think that's really offensive.
And what did we just have right back there in the 60s? Oh, we had the civil rights movement where literally MLK was pushing against that very same exact idea. And it doesn't really matter which direction you come from or the intent, it's still clearly there.
Yeah, because I mean, I was just like, no, well, I don't want people treating me different just because I'm a Latino, man. I was like, I don't want to be giving favors just because my skin's brown. Like, I don't want that. I don't want you not to give me a job because my skin's brown. I was like, but then again, I was like, if you're a racist and you didn't want to give me it because my skin is brown, I was like, good for you, you know? Yeah,
so like one of the things I remember learning about, so like,
I'm not shopping here.
Like one of the things I grew up with is like, oh, when you would learn about the civil rights movement and stuff, you learn that all the schools were forced to, you know, desegregate and break down these lines, and they were trying to move people closer together. But what ended up happening was that the South did that. A lot of the southern states did that, but none of the northern states did that. None of the northern states, you know, like broke down their county lines and separated. Like they still very much left those lines in place, and they just kind of went past it because like they weren't you know, racist or discriminating or anything. And so
no, they're the ones that are anti-racist.
Yeah. So and then now it's like, who were the ones who were pushing these, you know, hyper postmodernist style ideas? It's people in those more northern states who didn't grow up with it, and they're shaking up needless amounts of attitude as a result.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was kind of funny because it wasn't too long ago, maybe about, it seemed maybe, it was probably right around when I was like 36 years old. So that was probably about, I don't know, almost 8 or 10 years ago. When I was sitting there thinking, I was like, you know what, I'm pretty sure we're going to be done with racism in not too long here. I was like, in another decade, that's going to be like a thing of the past. We won't even think about it. You know, because I was looking at how, couples are starting to be more mixed color,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I was like, we're really moving along. I was like, this has gotten a lot further than I thought it would in my lifetime.
Like, so there was always like the jokes like, oh, black guys like, larger white women. It's like, I don't know how many times I can confirm that stereotype with how many interactions I've seen. It's like, that is a very normal thing, and it is very true. it's quite interesting. But yeah.
I mean, that's just the thing, is it because people became so offended by things like that, and they're like, oh, well, that's stereotyping, that's racist. Be like, yeah, actually, it is, but it's funny, and most of the time, people that are from that race don't care that you say things like that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, this guy here has a bias towards these types of women, and down the road from me, what is there? Oh, there is a mixed couple, and the girl's she's pretty darn chunky. It's funny because Long Beach Griffey has a skit. It's like it was something like black women complaining about men or something like that, and the whole skit is wrapped around black guys don't like dark-skinned women. They only like that light-skinned women, and it's just so funny to hear it. And it's like it's like how true it is, just like a little parody of that. It's just so accurate.
Yeah, I think what bothers me the most is that it seems like all this stuff is being on behalf of all the minorities.
Yeah.
I don't even like that word, minorities. It sounds so stupid because it's like.
What happens in like
everybody's like upset on our behalf, and just be like, man, shut the fuck up.
And it's like, well, if you compare like the entire planet scale, it's like Asians are pretty darn big population over there, and then like, well, how do you determine all of the Asians? Like, how do you determine Vietnamese from like Korean or Japanese? It's like those are whole completely different groups that have nothing to share with each other easily. And then you go the same thing like Africa. It's like every single tribe considers themselves very distinct from each other, and there's countless tribes out there. And then you have in the U.S. it's like they consider white people a majority, but what happens in like 100 years when like most people are either mixed or populations diminish and change? It's like, hey, what's going to survive is culture. The one silver lining that's kind of like weird to say is that at the end of the day, the postmodernists are not likely to have kids, and they're not gonna easily share their thoughts and beliefs over the school system as strongly as they think they can.
Well, it's kind of funny because in a way it seems like they're almost trying to breed themselves out of existence too.
Yeah, they're also the same people. It's like, oh, we're overpopulated on the planet and everything, but then it's also like, well, you're not the people who are going to have kids, so how about we go ahead and get rid of you first, and then we'll see how well we can do without you. And then they'll
you saw Idiocracy, right? The movie.
Yeah, that movie was great.
I mean, it is so funny because it's like it's
the
like
opener.
Spot on. That's what's going on.
But there's also a bit of an opposite truth to that, because we're seeing today like people who have money, they're the only people who can afford to have kids, and it's not necessarily that the poorer people are having kids abundantly, but there are also a lot of people in that category who are just not having kids at all, and particularly in that lower class because they can't afford it.
I think it doesn't really have to do with the affordability. Well, I mean, it probably has some. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but growing up, when we were coming up, people were having kids because they were having sex, man.
Yeah.
There was a lot of man on woman sex, and a lot of people were having kids, and nobody was thinking about, how am I going to feed these kids? I mean, people would after they find out their women were pregnant, and they'd be like, oh, how are we going to take care of all these kids, It was like an afterthought. People just had kids, and they were like, well, I guess we're having another kid, and I'm going to have to find out how to make more money. I'm going to have to go ask my boss for, like a raise. Like, my brother-in-law had to do that,
Yeah, and so like
having kids, and he was like, oh, I got to go ask my boss for another raise.
It's
but
actually,
now people are just like, oh, that's too hard, don't do all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think
better just not to have kids at all.
Yeah, that's like, oh, well, who's the world? This is what I'm happy to bring people into. But at the same time, it's like you can probably see like people on the very, very low end are the ones having kids, but it's also probably not as much in the U.S. It's like the U.S. is seeing a population diminish. And it's like you wouldn't see that statistically unless like multiple people over multiple scales were in that position. If that makes sense.
I think what we have is a lot of selfish people.
Gotcha.
Come to assassinate me, did you? Under whose contract? No, wait! Let's make it a game! Hyperion, no? The Obsidian block. Pangolin. Hephaestus United. Malawan! Am I getting closer, Barney? Hot or cold?
You know, because really the thing is it requires a lot of sacrifice to have kids.
Yeah.
Period.
And particularly, like,
And
you can't find a house, or if you can't be near, like, a cultural center to, like, actually, you know, be a good parent or and have that, you know, experience. Like, what are you gonna do? Move out into the boonies of Alabama or whatever? It's like,
yeah, now the house thing I totally understand. The house thing is a big one because I look at the prices all the time now, especially, you know, being in an apartment. And I'm like, man, this market is just really bad. How could anybody afford this? Especially kids coming out and wanting to have families and stuff. How do they do that?
yeah. And so that's
Like,
why,
even
like,
if they both have jobs, they could barely afford these houses.
yeah, because like, so like, this is rents in comparison to my area and actually like, Miami. That's because I was looking at Miami pretty recently, and the rents in my area are at least I start at 2K for any size. Like, it really doesn't matter. And so like, they start at 2K. I only make 60K a year. I'm a broke ass, you know, and go on. But that would be half my paycheck a month just to live independent, not including, like, you know, health insurance, parking on a car, and things like that. It's like, how am I supposed to be sustaining if I'm also, like, gotta wrangle up a kid? Then imagine, like, one of the parent, what if like, you had a spouse and then she would be AFK for out of a job or whatever for like 9 months to a year. It's like, how would someone be able to sustain on that and pay for two people's food or two additional people's foods and so on and so forth?
I think we're getting closer to the what is it? The World Health World. What is it? The World Economic Forum. There we go. WEF.
Yeah.
When they were talking
Schwab.
about, you know, you're going to own nothing and you're going to be happy. I think it's really what they're getting to us, because I mean, the way I was seeing land just being gobbled up everywhere, like
Yeah.
out there where I was living.
Because only like big investors can buy things, and they know they can,
Yeah.
and they know they're the only ones who can.
And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, nobody's going to really be able to afford houses anymore. You're going to be renting from other people. You're never going to be able to own these things anymore.
And to some extent, like, all right, sure. The reason why I was looking at Miami is like, it's a cultural center. You would go there because you want to be involved with a walkable neighborhood or something like that. It's like, all right, those things are pretty darn attractive, all things considered. However, it's like, what's the end of that? Like, what happens when I get to the end of the working road? Do I just like live on rent money that I just like keep on rent out and like not have kids? What's the end goal there? It's like, what happens when you can't have a place? So like, the obvious best thing is like, you gotta keep sharing the information so that that you can push people into office positions and they become more aware of the things that are going on. Because that's one of those things, like, I think I probably believe if you can squeeze out, you know, harshly enough on, you know, information being pushed down, you're gonna have to get to the point where enough people know that if things aren't doing this particular way and going in this particular direction, then there's problems. I think information spreading is probably our best bet to get out of a hole.
To combat this, yeah.
Just a turnaround. That's just a turnaround.
Or you mean to get to a point where we're not fully running into this face first?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, we already kind of are running into it, and if we're not existing into it now, it's just going to get worse.
I don't know, man. I mean, I was watching China Uncensored. They were talking about, like, the banks are failing over there.
Yeah.
And all the shit that's going on with how bad they've been doing with their buildings, and they've overspent. They really can't afford anything. And I see what's going on with Ukraine, and I see what's going on with the food situations. You know, like how, what was Holland, or what was the place where they're like telling them they can't grow as much food as they want to because
Netherlands. It was the Netherlands.
Climate restrictions.
Yeah, it was environment restrictions that they're imposing. So like, okay, so the whole European continent is a pretty darn fertile continent. They would be completely self-sufficient and exporting food if they didn't have those EPA requirements, or their equivalent of like the EU's, you know, European energy efficient. I can't remember what it was called, If they didn't have those rules, like in a country the size of the Netherlands, with how efficient they've been on their land usage, with all that farmland, they could be pumping out so much food. But it's because of those, like, oh, you can't have this here without being taxed this much. Like, who in the world's taxing farms like crazy? It's just, it's so bizarre.
Well, you know, I mean, governments do weird things for whatever they need to get done. You know, I think I told you like a long time ago, they used to pay my grandpa, I think, money to not plant anything on his farm.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, why
because
the government
because they were trying to control prices.
Yeah, the government keeps getting involved in things that they shouldn't be.
Well, that's the biggest problem. That's actually what turned me on to like Ron Paul, because Ron Paul was like, you know, no, the opposite. You don't want the government to figure out anything for you. You know, he was like, they're the worst people that you could ask. He's like, they're not the smartest people in the room. You know, he was like, they don't necessarily have the best ideas. He was like, what people need to figure out how to do things for themselves. And, you know, if they want to be charitable and help each other out, that's their prerogative. But making the government take your money so that way they could solve these problems just makes things work.
Oh, you can hold up. This game, you can save screenshots? What? That's dope. I can use these as screenshots.
But anyway, I mean, pretty much everything,
saying.
like everything in concert, dude, just going on. It's like, man, I mean, it really looks like they're trying to break it. Like they're trying to break the world.
Yeah. See, I believe there's enough people who know enough now that if we can survive and spread that information, like, you know, 4 or 5 people, you know, at least into the next generation, you're gonna have enough people knowledgeable that it won't matter how big your your radioactive types. Let's just say that your radioactive types are. I think one of the things that we overestimate is like how big the radioactive types are, and like how much power they actually have.
Oh, you mean you're talking about like having nuclear plants and stuff?
No, I'm talking about the your radioactive types are your alphabet agents.
Oh, yeah.
They're radioactive. So like we always feel like, oh, the radioactive types, you know, they're gonna come after you and do things with the Patriot Act and everything. I remember when that was coming out. Yeah, I'm old enough to know Patriot Act, but yeah, I remember. So like, there's just kind of not enough of them. You know, you go push up against the beehive of DC. Sure, you're gonna run into them, but you know they can't be everywhere. And like, if you get enough people knowing this, and you get enough people in the position where it's like, oh, you can't litigate and trial all the people who are disagreeing with, you know, the government process as it is at the federal level. It's like remember, those people are still affected by age and not having kids. Those people are still affected in that same category. Eventually, there's going to be a breaking point on not just, you know, the one side, but the other side as well. They just won't have the people to do the policing that they say they're going to be doing, because they just won't be able to afford the people. Well, I mean, but look, really, the thing is look at what happened with the Nazis and how they were able to actually employ people, like, you know, to go like
against their own people, you know?
But that's the thing. It's like,
yeah,
if you spread the information, though, like we're doing today, we have that information spread that people can find out like that what they need to actually know.
We're betting on the altruism, you know, like of humanity, and I just don't think that there's actually that much out there.
I think there's just more than what meets the eye. And that's just kind of what I'm betting on. I'm betting on more people learning and knowing about this and sharing it and talking about it.
I mean, it certainly is gonna help. Don't get me wrong. But I think there's a lot of people out there that are just like, so what?
Yeah, I mean, when you bring up, like, you know, military types who go into it because they had a poor schooling or poor raising, and then it's like, you know, butts on a wall.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, Jordan Peterson, I'm sure you've heard of him, but he talked about a lot of this stuff about, like, why, you know, when it comes down to it, a lot of people, when they're asked to do something like that, like, it's your life, or, you know, you report on others for us, a lot of people are just going to be like, well, I guess I might as well make money while the getting is good.
Yeah, I was listening to him kind of roast Canada today, or basically roast Trudeau. It's always It's kind of funny to hear him roast Trudeau, but just like the most high-level language possible you can really get.
Oh, yeah. He knows Trudeau pretty well, right? Because he's from Canada.
Yeah. It's just like I've seen videos of Trudeau like talk. It's like this guy's he's an NPC. He's an NPC. He's a communist NPC. It's like, how in the world does someone like this exist? And how is there enough people who vote for this, knowing and willingly vote for it? It's so bizarre.
That's what I'm saying, man. People only have enough time to look at the headline.
Yeah.
They don't have, they don't have the time to do that, and sometimes they don't have the capacity to think beyond the headlines. We're like, oh well, they said this. Well, I wonder, is that true? Because there aren't a lot of people out there like that. Like, I'm one of those people, but I've met a lot of people like that. A lot of people I know, as a matter of fact, they're like, I don't really care. I don't ask questions. I just go along with it.
Yeah, and like, I have to get my articles in through audio wires. I listen to the Mises audio wires. If you listen to any of those, those are really good usually. And sure, I can only pay attention so well. And I don't get around to actually reading articles that often, unless it's something I'm like searching up or researching in my personal time. So, and it makes sense, like people are just like, go, 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 gotta get it, gotta go, go, go. So, and then there's a chest up here. Oh my god.
I mean, sometimes, like when I see like how stupid people are, I'm all like, oh, we let these people vote?
Yeah, it's the thing. It's like, oh, they kept lowering the voting age to capture basically high schoolers with very limited knowledge, and then they do the marketing of like, once again, like AOC types. You're like, oh, we're the modern, youngins who know the things and who know how to respect the culture and stuff like that. And they won't lower the drinking age, but they'll keep lowering the darn voting age.
Your path.
Yeah, and like why haven't they gotten rid of the federal marijuana law?
Yeah, like things like that, jump around. It was interesting. I was looking at THC gummies yesterday. It's like, huh? It turns out like there's like different deltas or whatever, and like apparently a Delta 9 or a Delta 8 stuff is technically like not been outlawed, so you can actually get that cross borders. And so I was looking at like a bunch of websites because I was ordering some CBD gummies because those are all A-OK. Because like they had
I like Koi.
Brand? Is that a brand?
Very good company.
I was looking at Hempzilla. That's what I've been getting from lately.
I think I've heard of them. I think they're pretty good too. I've tried a lot of different companies, but I ended up going with Koi because their stuff is very consistent. Their labeling is really consistent. Once you learn their stuff, you're like, oh, okay, you know your dosages, you know how they affect you.
Yeah, Hempzilla is real professional. So send me that that website next time you're free.
Matter of fact, I mean, I take them while I'm gaming and stuff. I take them when I go work out.
I've only been doing the sleep stuff lately, but this time around I got the weaker sleep stuff and the better daytime stuff.
Yeah, they've gotten really good at this whole chemical, like mixing everything up, isolating which ones do what.
I had got my mom and dad into it and everything, at least the CBD side, and definitely my dad said he noticed a difference when he took one of my higher ones. My mom, we just been ordering like cheap ones off Amazon, which don't even tell you what's in them, so you can barely tell if it's actually doing anything. But yeah, so I got my mom to switch on to the Hempzilla, so she's gonna try those out this week when they come in. Like, I really do think they're kind of a critical thing. I'm also a guy who puts down a lot of other supplements, though, so...
Well, I mean, have you ever actually had marijuana? Have you, cannabis? Have you ever done cannabis?
No. I mean, just like, never really had the opportunity.
They're very effective. I mean, in the form that you get it, it's just, you're gonna get everything together, with what they've done with these CBD gummies. They've been, like I said, they've been isolating certain parts of it.
So they can put it out legal and everything.
Well, not just the legal part, but there's like certain ones that'll make you like more focused, and they won't make you feel sleepy. Like, of course, like you're taking a sleep one, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to take a sleep one when you want to be focused. So they got really good at like studying it and isolating everything. The problem that you run in a lot of times is when you're trying to like look for brands and stuff like that is whether they're reputable brands and stuff. I had ran out of my toys, and I tried to get some down there in the valley, and they didn't have any place. And I went in, and they had this one, and it was labeled like 1,000 milligrams altogether, and there was like a, you know, I don't remember how many were in there, but I was eating literally like half of them, and I didn't feel a thing. So, you know, they call it, they say it's still kind of like the Wild Wild West when it comes to CBD gummies.
They said that was the Koi brand?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't done any, and said I was CBD at 1,000 milligrams.
Oh no, that was just some stuff that I bought at a random store down there in the
I know
valley,
that
which was.
I haven't seen any of the CBDs sold at that, but I've been seeing the THC sell at that base level. That's what I was thinking about, trying to, like, you know, give it a try out on a long weekend or something.
The cool thing is too, like when I order, I usually get like they'll send you like little packets of other stuff to try, like just to, you know, see if you like it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that sounds pretty neat. I'll have to try that next time. I haven't like subscribed to anything yet. Like the main thing I use for focus is I take these nootropics. I take it's Neurohacker's Qualia Mind, and it's pretty darn pricey, but yeah, I think it works. I also don't do a coffee, so I use that as my coffee alternative.
Yeah, I mean, really, I would prefer cannabis, you know, if they had it. But this stuff works pretty well when you learn to use it with the dosages and stuff.
And like, I've heard several times, like out in California, like if you're at the big tech companies, you basically have to do that stuff if you want to like keep pace with the competition. Like you want to, like, you know, do like you want to be a good coder or stuff like that. You have to do those if you want to keep up with it. And so like that's why like a lot of the big coders live out there, is because they want to be able to do that, or they go to somewhere, you know, out of country. But I was looking at because I heard it was Ron White talking with Joe Rogan about ayahuasca thing you can do out in Costa Rica. So I'm like, I wonder if it's worth taking a trip to Costa Rica just for, like, you know, a long weekend shaman trip or whatever.
Yeah, I've never actually done any like anything that was really like highly hallucinogenic.
Yeah, I'm really interested when I hear. I'll let you finish that. But yeah,
no, I mean, I always wanted to. I just never, you know, I'm really aware of like having the right mind. You know, a lot of people ask me like, what's it like doing cannabis? I said, well, I'd say it's probably more like an amplifier of anything. So if you go in like sad and go in, I was like, you'll probably get more amplified effects. I was like, usually for me, I was like, I'm a pretty happy person, so like for me, it just makes me super happy.
Yeah, see, like I know when it comes to like other substance, my blood pressure is notorious to rise, because, you know, I hear about those people who are like, you know, get paranoid. I definitely feel like I would be one of those guys who get paranoid if I was taking it, you know, raw and like you know, in an odd situation.
Yeah, so like they say, like it's the same thing, like kind of with hallucinogenics like acid, or, you know, anything like ayahuasca or other things like that, peyote. That it's kind of like a Star Wars reference. It's like the cave on Dagobah. You know, when Luke asked Yoda what's in the cave, he says only what you take with you. I don't know if that reference actually means anything to you or not.
I might get it. I watched it. I know what it is.
Yeah, so basically it's like, yeah, if you're all messed up in your head and you go and start tripping on acid, he's like, you're probably not going to see the coolest shit.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, so Ron White talks about how there's like a guided experience on it. It's like,
oh yeah.
That makes more sense, because one of the things he talks about is they tell you to go to like the dark side of the imagery and things like that, and not go towards the light side, and that makes a lot of sense. Like you gotta have that person who knows how to push the mind a little, and that's why I was really interested in it. And just trying to talk to another friend about it, and he was also kind of interested in trying to do that. It's like if you can get that advantage, that's what you need in life. Is you need those advantages that keep going. And that's where I'm like, you know, suffering from here. It's like, you know, I can't get better at things because I've kind of hit a mental capacity of what I want to do.
Oh, okay. You feel like you're kind of closed up in your mind right now, like you can't expand past it, like you have barriers that are holding you in.
And like the nootropics really help with that. They help with like the focus, but like I can't bring myself to like do programming on the side or like edit videos for this.
Is that like a creativity block?
Yeah, they definitely have a huge. I definitely had the creativity kind of stomped out of me throughout school because when I was in college, like I had to do the game programming and everything, and later on doing just like Python programming, and that just like really burnt me out. It's like I didn't have anything to refresh it or like anything to like learn from it or a mentor to guide me. So like if you want to do that by yourself, you got to have that drive, and so it's like trying to find something to substitute the drive. And the nootropics, I wish I had learned about those a lot earlier. I didn't start taking those until I really gotten out of school and everything. But those really make a difference. Just like the more complex sets of them, and not just like caffeine. But then, like they're talking about the mental blockers, and that's definitely an impactor. Yeah.
Well, you know, I don't know. Did you see the latest articles that they're coming out with, talking about how a lot of the drugs that they've been putting people on for like depression and everything like that? It turns out that there's no such thing as there's no real evidence for chemical imbalances in the brain.
Oh, like the opioids and things.
No, well, so like the
Not
selling
just
point
those.
behind all of the serotonin, you know, the SSRIs that they were giving out, that they're making all this big money on by selling it to people for their kids and stuff like that, and they're telling them as a selling point, they're like, well, really what this is, it's not the kids' fault. What's going on is they have an imbalance of chemicals in their brain. That was their selling point. Like it was the science, and it was considered the science till like really literally like 2 weeks ago.
Thanks, Vault Hunter. You made my dreams come true.
Yeah, that's the same thing with like.
It was just a really popular thing to say because that's what they said was the science. Was they're like, yeah, you got imbalances in the brain. That's why you're hyperactive, or that's why you're like this.
Even though it turns out like, oh, actually boys should be hyperactive because they're mostly trying to grow big and
right, because of our genetics.
Yeah, it's a natural thing.
Yeah,
not meant to sit down and be holding still.
Yeah, schools are modeled for girls, because girls are more apt to do that, to be more docile, to sit and listen, that kind of thing.
And you know what the ancient Greeks did? They had their gymnasiums where they physically wrestled next to their libraries, basically. Like that was how it should be, and that's really what's missing today.
Yeah, and I think that's what I think too. That's why I'm like, we were talking about homeschooling. I think that's better for like my daughter. I don't want my daughter to be the kind of person that's like, oh, well, I got to do this for 8 hours straight. You know, I want her to be able to do things for 8 hours straight.
Or it's just like it's a result that 8 hours straight on that mission was done.
Yeah, what I would like for her to do is learn, you know, to get things done like as you need to get them done. You know, like where she can set her own schedules. Like this is what your curriculum is. This is what you need to learn for the year. You know, and where she can set it up and she can schedule and plan on her own accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, I think nootropics actually are something that even things to be given to kids just because of the stimulation behind it, but let you figure that out.
Is nootropics like kratom? Is that what you're talking about?
So caffeine is considered a nootropic. That's the main one. There's another handful of them that are often put in these supplements, and then one of the ones I haven't gotten to recently, what I'm going to probably try, but a friend was talking, one of my friends, he brought one of these Joe Rogans to my attention that I hadn't watched, with Andrew Hupperman, and he talks about the hormone stuff, and I did a whole log. I can share that if you're interested. I have a whole log of all the supplements that I take and like what they are. So like it's a fatty acid, and I looked at it, I only have one hormone supplement, and it's a known thing that even Tim Ferriss has talked about this, that even particularly as people sit around, oh god, legendary, they ended up losing the particular guy's high testosterone. So like testosterone levels even in me at my age are actually still going down because of the way you know, the inactivity is and stuff, but you can use as, you know, supplements to actually boost that back up into a position.
Yeah, I was reading an article too about that one that was talking about how the hormone levels of the men these days is a lot lower, like a lot lower, like
and so I'm thinking that's probably one of the things that I'm missing from my you know, catalog of. I probably spend every 6 months probably about $1,000 on supplements in some capacity.
Wow.
It's a rough math. It's not consistent. Sometimes I get things on sale, and that changes the math a little bit. But yeah, it's definitely something like that. And then, sure, I feel like I'm getting I get it. I definitely know the days I don't take it. I can feel the days I don't take it. They really do impact me. And the days that I do take it, it's like I'm at that normal operating level. I feel like a normal operating level. Like things don't hurt, the joints don't ache, and things like that, and the mind works properly. And even when I get my parents doing like the CBD, like at least my dad, like on the one occasion he really felt the difference because particularly as you get older, like those types of supplements make more of an impact. Like I had to take a lot of it to really feel an impact.
Yeah.
But yeah, society itself currently.
So what is it that you think that you might see like doing something like ayahuasca? Are you looking for something you're hoping it'll help like
kind of reorient it, deal with? So a lot of it's supposed to be dealing with like trauma stuff. It's like I have a lot of like I'm highly neurotic, and so I'm so negative
like
emotions.
Compulsive?
No, so neuroticism is when negative emotions have high impact on my being. So if I do things kind of like odd or silly like that or misplaced, or maybe I said something weird, those things stick with me harsher than if I were to like just like eat an apple or something like that. So like that experience.
How did you find this out? Were you tested?
Jordan Peterson has that Big 5 personality thing, and I took it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, you might want to get your daughter to do that one. See where she sits on that Big 5 thing.
I was thinking about doing it too.
It's you can find it through his like his videos and stuff. He has it. All that's linked. I have his webpage like bookmarked. Yeah. If you go through it, you can find like the self-assessment. I think that's what it's called.
So you were saying that you're neurotic and that causes.
I've high neuroticism. That's the way to say that. Like everyone has neuroticism to some capacity. That's how that Big 5 system works. It's a scale. It's not like you have this, don't have that.
Doesn't it seem to like also imply that autism is also on a scale?
That's why they use the word spectrum when they use that.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's
right?
like, well, everybody, is a unique entity in that regard. So.
Yeah.
So that's where that sort of sits. But like at the same time, think about so do you know how like minds work? Like even Peterson, he talks about this on a couple of different videos. Like there's different mindsets. Like we teach the science mindset to learn things in text, but the main thing that he brought up was how tribals. He was talking about how it was some natives that he had done some studying on and learned about, and that these natives, particularly in Canada, that were still like are hanging around, talk about how their dreams are in like these flashing images, and there's no sounds, or like the things are like a very, very different. And like he talks about how there's a whole different series of mindsets out there that we just kind of forgotten about. And I know this for a fact because the super learners like Tim Ferriss, he talks about this. What people do when they get to these high levels of performing, it's not that they're unlocking an ability that they had down deep. No, it's that they're using the natural human ability to paint pictures, not words, because we obviously developed language after we had developed the good imagery receptors.
Wow, that's very interesting. Where was that from? Because I read his 12 rules for life, and then I've listened to a lot of his seminars.
I don't remember
I've never
which
come across
video.
like that.
I don't know which video who talks about that in, but the whole Tim Ferriss stuff is stuff I pieced together.
That's really interesting. I like that. That actually makes a lot of sense, especially when you think about things like, Nikola Tesla supposedly was the same way, where
think about
all of his ideas came from visions that he was having.
Well, think about anybody, like particularly so the biggest area in Tesla, he comes out of these areas too. The area of highest level like intelligent gain was out of the areas that were formerly city-states in Europe before World War I. So these are guys like Einstein, this is von Mises, this is von Neumann. All these guys came out of like the Central Europe set where like learning was just like in a boom. So this is also guys like Bach and Mozart and Beethoven. They all came out of these really highly intelligent areas. because these city-states were pretty darn free on learning and education, and they weren't like restrictive and things, and people learn differently. There's I can't remember what the book is called, but it's talked about in another book called Moonwalking of Einstein, and this guy talks about how memory champions, this is an old book and it's really good, I can send you the link for it. The memory learners, what they do is everything is picture based, and that's just how people naturally learned back then. So like patterns and things were putting together large strings of imagery, and that's just how people were supposed to learn. And the text
like evolutionary, that it makes sense, right? Because I mean,
yeah,
like you were saying before, communication, that's all we were doing. We were absorbing information through our visual like patterns and stuff.
Our brain is built around meaning, not objects, which is the problem that you know, we have with the scientists today, is that you have computer science and it's really logical, and machine learning can't actually figure things out because it doesn't have a way of actually assigning information.
You don't take fall damage?
No, in this game you don't take fall damage. It's pretty nice.
Oh, wow.
None of the Borderlands take fall damage.
It's times like these where I'm glad that I have you as a friend, because I've often told you that for your age, I remember when I asked your age and you were like, I was like, damn man, I was like, you sound really mature for your age. And I was like, really? I'm glad to have met you. Yeah, you sound very
once again, like, I went to school with a bunch of STEM guys. I knew guys who were younger than me and smarter. I met savants who like high functioning autism savants. Like those guys are, it's unbelievable. They exist, but they do. I've met those people, and it's insane that how much they can retain and this output, and it's bonkers.
Yeah, it really is cool. I mean, just to think that the capability of our brain is really so much more, but we really have not learned, or maybe they don't know how to teach us, or maybe they're.
When I hear somebody has autism, I hear somebody who hasn't unlocked their full potential and is probably being held back by society.
I think it's just society doesn't understand really what it is they are, or what they're experiencing, what their reality is they're experiencing.
And just even talking about
you just assume it's different.
Yeah, even talking about that and discussing it, I think it's like the best point to start. It's like we always, everything, even when I like listen to the Von Mises material or the Mises Institute guys, one of the things that it sounds so depressing is like everything sounds so depressing, but at the end of the day, it's actually pretty darn hopeful if all you do is just share the information.
Yeah, you're saying like talking to other people.
Yeah, just sharing it and then getting people aware so that the next generation doesn't make the mistakes, or like the politician who maybe doesn't know what he's doing or what she's doing, you know, just sharing it. Because, you know, even though there's a divide between like Democrats and Republicans, there's actually much more similarities in between the you know, small conservative justices movements that we're seeing today, and the libertarian movement and everything, because it's one of the things that people were complaining about recently was the judiciary proceedings and repeals that were happening recently. But a lot of those, if you actually put them under the guise of small government and things like that, end up being you know, more originalist in nature, and that's something that the conservatives are really liking because they like the conservative arguments, but the libertarians are liking because they like the libertarian arguments behind it, and they're arguments that if you shared with each other, you're more likely to find a common ground versus the authoritarians that we have with the Democrat and the you know, communist types.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree.
So I'm thinking, if anything, you know, I share the Mises articles with my parents, and my dad's pretty you know, on point with like you know, agreeing with it and everything, and so it's like, well, there's a big overlap between like wanting the small government and, you know, having value driven, and then often being, you know, Judeo-Christian value based between the, you know, libertarians and the conservatives. What I like to do is kind of, if you just start pushing out the, you know, the conservatives that aren't actually like, you know, they're actually authoritarians, and you can tell they aren't. You push those out. That's actually a lot more left behind than there would be if you were pushing through that on the Democrat side.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually for the most part, most people are a lot closer in what they think than, you know, I think they just have this idea, and they're like, no, they've got to be, they're radical. You know, I think both sides see each other that way.
Hey, that's the big suck.
I think what's happened is that slowly and steadily the media and a lot of other parties involved too have been trying to polarize us purposefully to move us further apart.
Yeah, that's why I think, like, you get, there's clearly a demand for those types of people to get pushed out, and you can see that in the way that the big media is losing a lot of attention and a lot of ground. It's like, sure, my grandma still watches CNN because she doesn't really know any better, but she's not getting the money, and she's not having any more kids to pass on that information. And then me and my dad are observers of such media. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what happened. Bad ideas, they die out.
And that kind of goes into confirming why I say and am as hopeful as I am on the material is because of things like that.
Yeah, I think, like I said, what gets me is I look at it like the whole perspective of, like, I see the troubling news that's going on everywhere, and it makes me think it's like, man, this could really, like, start a cascading effect that's going to be really bad so fast.
Yeah, and ideally, like, more.
What I really think, the reason I think that matters is because the kind of thought that you're talking about, the kind of free thinking, the free communication that you're talking about, that I also agree. I think that needs to happen. I think that as a society we have to get.
That's how we learn.
To a point
that's how we grow. And
that where we're not fighting with each other, where we're freely, sharing information with each other. I think that's what we need to do as well.
Yeah.
But I think what happens is if right now the way it looks is that there's something trying to take over globally, you know what I mean? A global takeover of some sort to get us all homogenized.
Mr. Klaus Schwab, he couldn't stand what the Germans fell through.
Yeah, I'm thinking that they're not going to have the most conducive places for people to talk freely and to communicate, to really think freely like that. I think it'll be more constraining the way they always have done, like in the schools, like we were talking about. In the schools and the workplace, where we don't want you thinking freely. We want you to just do what we're telling you to do.
So I was listening to Babylon B. They did a podcast with Angel Studios. You should look them up. They had this whole lawsuit. They were talking about things, but essentially they were also talking about how
that's the spirit.
The original things behind, like, Google and the other big tech companies, was this very libertarian nature idea set was of free speech and everything, but they had to become authoritarian to appease the Democrats who were just like yelling at them and being as they are now. And so they became more
even the
authoritarian.
conservatives,
yeah,
even the conservatives
did it too,
because they'd like to restrict information.
They would do the counter arguments, like, why did you remove? It's like the thing was like, oh, the Democrats would say, like, why is this book on your platform? And then the conservatives would be like, why did you remove this book from your platform? So they would keep trying to appease both political parties from lawsuits that would make it harder for them to exist. And so, like, yeah, you're right. It is both sides on their their complaints and maybe some are justified and some aren't, but at the same time, you can't coerce a business.
Web,
yeah, you can't.
The dark web is probably closer what they were imagining for, like,
your weakness is noted.
Yeah, you can't coerce businesses into.
Now, beast.
I want to switch back to my chaos, but yeah, you can't coerce businesses to do things that they shouldn't, and thus we have the problems that we have now with corporations doing things that they probably shouldn't. And they're basically run by people who were willing to do the things to appease the government types and appease the all the other bodies like investors and stuff, and the people are complaining.
Okay, don't forget all the stuff that you have to send me, like Jordan Peterson and stuff. I want to read.
Oh, you can find that
or at least I want to see the video. No, you said you were going to give it to me. Stop being.
I did not say I was going to give you that one. I just said you'll find it on the website.
I have no
Dude, I sent you the link for the gummies.
A chef's life is not for me.
That's all I asked for from you.
Be nice. Be nice.
Now go grab that skag meat.
Okay, wait. What was the guy's name? It was Jordan. I'm not doing anything. I'll look it up. It was Jordan Peterson and who?
So you need to look up Moonwalking of Einstein. I wish I had really got. So I listened to that audiobook a long time ago. and I really wish I had done more of that material that was done in it. But basically, you spend like an hour meditating, but actually doing a very particular practice of trying to build memory palaces, and it's a fantastic way of learning. I did a little bit of it for a math class, for my calculus class, and it actually did help. I just like never really picked up the habit of constantly doing it. But you build basically a house mentally in your head, and you store like math equations or like recipes to cookbooks or something, and you can do that a lot because you basically like you think about a house, and then you plaster on the siding of the house. You put down like the wall is covered with an equation for a math equation, or the wall is covered with a name or quote from a book or something, or the floor has this on it. And then when you look at the floor and you think about what you're looking around, your mind just fills in those blanks for you, and it's pretty crazy how it works. But it's legit. But you have to really spend time doing it, and that's how those how people remember a card of decks or a deck of cards or whatever. It's because they're doing that.
Okay, so that's the book. What was the interview that you said that Jordan Peterson was?
I don't remember which one. It was just one of his.
Matt something.
No, I never said what name. He was. It was one of the ones he was talking about, like how people think and stuff. I don't remember which one it was. It was just, I think it was just stuffed away in his material. Where it comes with a
Was he talking about ayahuasca? Oh, okay, so you said the Canadian tribals. Canadian tribals, right?
Tribals. Yes. The ayahuasca was Ron White with Joe Rogan. But there's several locations on that, so you just find the clips on his website or the YouTube channel.
Let's see. Cruelty, Charles Joseph, Jordan.
But the skag dogs off still seems weird.
Speed.
Come here, you filthy heretic! That's getting deep fried!
You there? How are your last breaths going?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I love to learn. I like hearing information. I like to dig into all this stuff. Remind me of something if I forget. Spirit guides, okay? We'll come back to that. I want to find this video first.
Finding cover!
Jordan Peterson on the default ways that human tribes think about other tribes.
Oh yeah, that sounds about right.
Was it a long one?
I think so. It was a long time ago though.
Yeah, this one's like 8 minutes. Oh, okay. So this is just like a side story, but we were talking about like spirit guides, you know, the whole ayahuasca thing, and somebody to guide you through like your whole experience.
Yeah.
So there was this
Death! Do you see me?
What was his name? Shit. I have to look it up.
We should do these more often. Just like chill and not be worried about planet side nonsense.
Yeah.
I might go ahead and pick up the Borderlands DLCs just because they're still on sale, as far as I can tell. I mean, it's $35. I'm clearly willing to lose 500 on an overnight swing on a day trade that was supposed to be a day trade that I could have taken $300 on it, but I was like, I'll swing it, and then it ended up in a meeting. So when I realized after hours, like right after I got out of the meeting, it was like 4 or 5 or whatever, and then I realized, oh, it's popping off. I couldn't exit because I was in a meeting, and yeah, so my ride got killed. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a song that I really like by this group called Live. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
No.
Okay, very popular back in the day, but they had a book. They had a song on one of their albums called TBD, and that stands for the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
Oh.
And in the song, he actually describes an experience and it's said that this experience is based off of the death of Aldous Huxley. That when he was dying, that he was microdose. Actually, he didn't microdose on his death. I think that he actually took an acid trip, like LSD. And they fed it to him while he was in his dying phases, and they read to him. His wife supposedly read to him the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is basically, it's like a spirit guide to ease you through the dying phase.
Oh.
Going, you know, like from your waking moments. It's stuff like to remember your training, like to remember to breathe, to remember to, you know, kind of just understand what's going on.
I should
like,
keep this.
I think some of them are to like mostly calm people's fears, like certain things, like a lot of things people think, especially people like myself growing up with like religious backgrounds in Christianity, that when you die that you're going to go to hell and you're going to be tormented by demons and stuff. So one of them is like, you know, is like that. It's like, you know, based on stuff like that. It's like, even though, you know, it said that those things happen, remember that they can only take your life once, and then, you know, that way, you know, it'll be over anyway. And something, one of them's like the nausea that you experience during death sometimes. I don't know if you've ever been so sick that you experience nausea.
No. Well, I mean, not since I was a kid, but yeah, I get your mean.
You look better with balls.
Yeah, like it's really bad, but so like it's they called it like the waves of the ocean. They're like when you experience that, just remember to breathe and stuff like that. It's so it's supposed to be kind of like a guide that's read to people, you know, on their deathbed.
I was gonna say the song that I usually think about, particularly when pertaining to that ayahuasca stuff, was Frankie Goes to Hollywood. They had a song called
Oh, you were talking about them last time.
Yeah, Black Light, White Light, or Black Night, White Light, or something like that. But it talks about, but basically that's like an experience through it, and the term that was used to represent the actual like contents or like the visions you see was is leader. And it's a really interesting term to use in that. But like you, instead of like calling it, oh, it's the figures you see, but it said it's the leader. So that's a line. It's like, we are the leaders, and it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. It just kind of does. And it's one of those like archetypical things or whatever.
Interesting.
Just like, you know, listen to that song at some point, and then think about those particular lines with that contents.
I got to do something with my headphones, because for some reason, like every time I get on now, like it'll either play certain things, and then I have to like turn them off and restart them to get them to play something else. Like if I want to jump into PlanetSide after playing Division, I have to turn them off and then turn them back on for them to reconnect to even hear sound. And so like now I'm trying to listen to YouTube while I'm listening to you on Discord, and it doesn't want to play the music on YouTube.
All right, well, I was gonna say on that, it's actually getting kind of late for me. I've already got an hour past where I regularly was, so we can pick this up tomorrow. How's that sound?
Yeah, sure. I should probably be on. Cool. Nice talk.
I think you can. So like, Borderlands 3 is on. I got it on Epic just because it was on sale. But I think it's on sale on Steam. You can do crossplay with it, so that might be worth picking up if you want to get a different game. I'll probably go ahead and pick up the DLC.
I may do that, but it's probably won't be until after the first.
All right.
Paying my bills, man. Paying my bills.
I get it.
All right, man. I'll check you later.
Later.